on low, claiming space, taking everybody out in their way, and it's Cammy and Seti up on height that they need to clash with. Both teams on a crash course collision towards the end of this game. And Vidil finally being taken out, he was the last piece of the puzzle. And so it just remains these two Titan teams battling it out for the win here.
Yep, but you see Seti, he's low on HP, probably trying to save that slurp juice for this moment so we can get the most effective use out of it. Cammy and him trying to hold on to that high ground. We're going to get towards the mountain soon, but Thomas knows you don't want to let him hold on to that mountain, hold on to that high ground forever. With the Mammoth, he tries to break him out, but takes too much damage. Now he's going to go ahead and fight with it. With the heal off beginning right now, it's all up to Malabuka as Thomas is going for the final efforts, trying to stop the heal off, gets into the box, 2 more seconds, he gets knocked, but he deals a huge shot. Cammy's getting taken down low. The heal off continues with Seti, splashing both of these players, keeping Cammy alive that much longer to potentially try to go for the siphon, but the heals are out. Malabuka has everything left in the lobby and takes back-to-back games. Game 1 and Game 2 were secured by Thomas and Malabuka.
They can do it from above and they can do it from below. It doesn't matter what layer these guys play on. They will just dominate. 2 wins back-to-back to start off week 2. And they couldn't have done it against a better team. Cammy and Seti have been one of the few elite teams this season who has been consistent, who has been at the top of their game. And they made it look easy in the final moments. Look at them clearing everybody out. As soon as somebody was scuffed and said, okay, I need to go down to low ground, they were there waiting. That shot onto Vidil as well, also nasty. Malabuka and Thomas are insane.
Yeah, it's actually getting to be quite frightening, to say the least, because if you think Major 1, uncontested, top placement. Major 2, contested, top placement. Major 3, contested, back-to-back game wins. The lobby had better watch out and take note of what Thomas and Malabuka are doing. Otherwise, it's going to be too late before you figure it out.
These guys are on a whole different level right now. If they can keep this form going, it's going to start getting crazy. We're going to be talking about back-to-back wins at a certain point. Look, we got to calm down for a second. Let the analysts break that one down. Zeke, what you got for us?
Oh, 11, what do you want from me? These guys already just put on a show. Thomas and Malabuka, they break a new elimination record for weekly finals. Last record, 12. They say let's add 2 to that for 14. A victory royale from low ground as well. Viv, EU has it all. So we're only 2 games in, and EU said, hold on. You thought last week was crazy. This week, we're about to go up another level.
Listen, sometimes, we sit here on the desk and we try to break down plays. We try to get all analytical with it. But sometimes we watch these players, right? And sometimes they are just in the groove where you can tell, listen, they are just feeling it right now. And they want every single possible elimination they can get their hands on. And this was one of those games, in my opinion, for Thomas and Malabuka. They created space on the low ground, in the mid ground, and they just used the edits that they had claimed to their full advantage. Just kept taking aim duels and kept winning every single one until they finally got 14 eliminations. And I'm talking about it, right? They kept wanting to go for these eliminations, but it was the duality of this team that actually netted them that victory royale, because as much as they wanted those eliminations throughout this game, when it came down to it, Taco, they actually ended up slowing down and playing the heel off.
It's really just the way that they chose to split in those final moments as well, because I would definitely have to give credit where credit is due. And for Thomas, those were 2 very crucial back-to-back huge HP chunks, essentially, out of Seti and Cammy simultaneously. He wanted to provide every single opportunity there for Malabuka to last just that little bit longer there with the med miss. He still had a Chuck Splash available as well, which could have been a difference maker had it not been for the fact that Thomas was able to deal as much damage as he did in those final instances. And also just have to appreciate the way that they were attacking throughout those low ground layers. We saw it just looked so seamless, the way they were neck and neck next to each other, refusing to really give anyone an opportunity to break into their box. It was constantly them breaking down a wall, combat SMG, bringing out the Havoc pump shots exactly where they needed to go, and it's just a duo that was so in sync.
Wild, especially when you looked up at high ground and it got overtaken 3 separate times from V and Bacon to Kylie and Fastroki, then Cammy and Seti. There was just so much chaos up there that Thomas and Malabuka said, hey, we'll run the rest of the lobby. We'll get ourselves a victory round, 14 eliminations. No big deal. Let's take a look at our standings, because these are going to look very, very different. And of course, we know These guys are at the top. 2 back-to-back games. Victory Royales. Back-to-back. Only 3 duos currently sitting with triple-digit points. Seti and Cammy, Vask and Older as well. Now, obviously, this is a lead. We've developed quite a start here, Taco and Vivid. However, my question is, how do we keep pushing this forward? How do we stay in that first place?
Well, what's really cool about the split between first and second here is that you have to remember, Seti and Cammy, they're uncontested at Frenzy Fields. Meanwhile, Thomas and Malabuka, they've been having to deal with another duo at their drop spot, whereas in week 1, we actually saw them having, I think, a couple of issues in terms of like their surge damage threshold control, but it seems that Thomas and Malabuka being contested might actually be the secret recipe for them.
Working out so far for them. I mean, it's just absolutely crazy. And the thing that I love so much about that game, though, right, is that we talked about the aggression of Thomas and Malabuka throughout those low ground layers. They needed to get those refreshes, and they just kept rolling with it. But a team that played that game so methodically throughout pretty much the entire thing to where they didn't even need any refreshes, it's got to be Cammy and Seti. We tuned into them going into that first moving zone, and they still had 100 builds to work with. Absolutely insane stuff.
Yeah, even at one point we saw them 900 damage above the surge damage threshold, and it's incredible again because their positioning just seems flawless at times. The way that they choose to attack other player boxes as well, it just seems as though no walls are really able to stay intact whenever these two actually decide to go on the offensive. And that knock right there as well onto Mr. Savage. Mr. Savage of a deal, but they're trying their best to work their way up, but Cammy, Seti just not really providing any real opportunities for these teams to do so. And it's also impressive when you think about the fact that our top 2 teams right now, they're not even prioritizing the objective points that are available.
They're just like, hey, why not? Eliminations, aggression, let's go for it. And I gotta say, just a quick tip of the hat to the Mammoth Pistol playing kind of a surprise factor for us here. Sometimes you think it's good, then sometimes you take over 100 damage to the dome, you gotta recoil and say, hold on a minute, did I get too comfortable? Can't be given opportunities to like that to my opponents. But I want to see more action from the FNCS. I know you do too. Let's go on back over with our casters for game number 3 of the day.
I am ready for game number 3. If I had a seat, I would definitely be on the edge of it. Both Thomas and Malabuka are putting on a show. 52-point lead. And as Taco just said, this is without Rift Island, in which they typically go for.
It's Matt. You don't see this every weekend, I promise you that. Look, as somebody that does have a seat, Jacob, I'm actually not sitting on the edge of it. I'm sitting comfortably in it because we still have so many more games left to go and so much more action, so many more opportunities for the likes of Malabuka and Thomas to extend their lead. Or maybe we'll see somebody start and rain on their parade a bit. I would certainly not mind that either. Nevertheless, I guarantee we're going to see a lot of entertainment. The question is, though, are they even going to be able to win or spawn again? Is that something we need to watch out for?
Yeah, it's definitely something that, can you go perfect every single game? If there's any team, it can be them. That's definitely why we like to watch that racetrack right out of the gates. But I'm even looking at the rest of the field. Who can catch up to Thomas and Malabuka? Who can stop them? Because as of right now, 10+ eliminations per game. I asked who can stop them. Game number 3, we're going to find out.
The start of the game always provides us with so much fun and entertainment. A bit more stressful for the players, of course, that are in the midst of battles, but it's something we've all experienced playing Fortnite. Drop in. There's always that ever-present question of, will they, won't they, will we be landed on? It looks like my Groot and Heine are very much going to go for it again, but the drops don't look like they're in their favor. Malabuka and Thomas seem to be landing first, getting the choice of the blue weapons. Oh no! I was wrong. Heine, my Groot. They might just be able to take it. My Groot goes down. Malabuka on such low HP. And so Heine will be able to get the trade. It's 1-for-1 here. And Thomas was actually taken out by my Groot. So Heine and my Groot will win off spawn.
He just slid in, stole away the drum and any opportunity of taking the game right out from underneath Tom. Even pickaxed him a little bit. Even with the knock coming in, Malabuka, no resources, no build, no time to even pop the mini. Heine doing a good job. And everything slows down.
Talk about a blow for momentum, Jacob. You come off a back-to-back dub, And all of a sudden now you got to sit there and wait for half an hour? That is not what you want to be doing if you're Malabuka and Thomas. And we talked about who can catch up and who can start to close the distance on this lead. Everybody can now.
Great opportunity. It's only 52 points. Setting and Cammy, even though they don't go for Rift Island, typically that's an easy way to close the gap, or just simply winning the game. A huge find by Flixie. Grabs himself the rare Havoc shotgun. He knows that player is going to be around, and this is why you see a crucial importance of early game farming right out of your drop spot. You don't want to be stuck between a rock and a hard place, unable to defend yourself as Shaco's continues to be on the run. Gripe and Flixie are just hot on the chase. They know exactly where he's going every single step of the way. He's even trying to hide. The fire back does begin, but enough is enough. Shaco's goes down, and a great early game start for Gripe and Flixie.
Not bad at all. A team that I want to see sort of get back to some of their better form. We've seen them at times this year be so dominant, so impressive. I'd love to see them head back in that direction.
It's 72 over third, 52 over second, almost 100 or more over everybody else. This is where you see Shady Stilts. Nebs contested right out of the gates here. Does look like he doesn't have a teammate. So he might be looking to try to disengage, but Artist knows it. He knows he was solo. He's on the chase there. He's at least trying to figure out what direction he's going as Cade and Deox finish an easy fight over towards Breakwater Bay. They get the rest of that POI to themselves.
Oh, some one.
You know, Levin, what's your favorite POI? If you're landing right now and you had to pick a POI, not a split drop, where's Levin's POI?
Oh, that's tough. I like Brutal Bastion.
I don't know why. I could have guessed that.
Really?
You like to fight. You're one of the best players in the game. Brutal Bastion, probably one of the most contested drops in any game mode. I'm telling any game mode, Brutal Bastion has half the lobby there, I feel like.
This guy, man. I am not one of the best players in the game. We're not gonna do this.
I have time every week to make sure people know how great you are. But for now, we need them to know Ronnie and Gaweed. Looks like they're getting chased just a little bit. But that's the thing about the early game chases. Like, if you don't have that damage, at least the shield being gone, it's very, very risky place to continue to chase. Blaha and Mix, and we see them go down very, very early on in game number 2. They're trying to make up for it here. 66 points so far. Needs to try to catch up. Tries to make his way into the box. Joe by himself. That's a 2v1 situation. There goes his teammate trying to backtrack, get to him in the same box. And this is where a 2v2 finally is going to play out for the peek through the builds. Control over this one's going to be important. Back and forth it goes. Everybody just trading shots, but it's Mixon who has the biggest advantage.
We saw what Blaha can do as a solo in 1v2 situations, so just imagine how these guys will start to look when both of them are up 2v2ing people.
I like the idea. Looking at his augments real quick. Do I have Keymaster? Can I go to the hollow chest? And it does look like they're going to disengage, especially with that third-party team slowly but surely closing into the gap. We want to go ahead and try to grab as many points as possible. The Breakwater Bay was initially won by Cade and Deox very, very early on, but the third party slowly but surely creeping in, try to steal away the loot. They are in zone, so they can fight here for however long as they want, but they break down into the box. Cade, his teammate's going to go in. He tries to edit him out, but the shots are there. Deox bites off more than he can chew. Cade as well. The pressure is on. They're trying to survive, but it doesn't look like it's going to be enough. He continues to try to run, but Acid continues to fall down, follow him all together, and send that team back to the lobby. Now Breakwater Bay is theirs, or at least whatever's left of it.
Show them, and they're laughing. A team who very much are going to have eyes on them, because one of the few teams who's vying for the secluded spire that was actually able to make it through, and so they almost get to set the pace, set the tempo, right? And I think based on how they do today, will very much determine what week 3 looks like. We expect a couple different teams to make it through, so they're able to have a good week now. They're going to be in the power spot the power position. They'll hold all the marbles heading into week 3.
Like what Belushi's doing here, he's just trying to take the future ground, take a different angle. You gotta be careful. Vortex takes a huge shot. Not necessarily going to be traded off between the two. Klein's just getting backed up. He's the healthy one out of the duo on the low ground as Belushi continues to fight for every single one of these pieces. You can see that he's not playing too risky. He's not biting off more than he can chew because he knows him and his teammate are separated. So he's being very, very passive, very, very tactical in his approach. Probably has his protractor out, trying to find that right angle. And that's where you see him just backing off altogether. High ground, low ground, different layers, different peaks between the two. Vortex on the other side. But the longer this one goes, more teams are going to come in here because the vault actually spawned at Shattered Slab this time around.
Was a protractor what you used to get a right angle out?
That's how you get your angles. Yeah, you use a protractor. It's like the half moon, the half circle thing.
It's been a while since I've done maths, so I forgot. Okay, I trust you. I believe you.
I'm gonna get you. Don't worry.
I don't need it. I do not want to go back to maths. I'm good. The only maths I do is counting up points.
We can do that. We can do that. You can see the disengage coming through. Even though they're disengaging and it looks like they're trying to run away, their position on the map will always be known because they have the key card in their inventory. So if they want to go ahead and sneak around, they have to drop it. Otherwise, everybody's really going to know where they're at. Podesai, Snazy towards the Citadel. They already have everything that they need and more. So they're just trying to continue their position high up in the sky and just try to go for Surge all around them from any team that's rotating. But since we're on the corner of this map, a lot of the teams that would be rotating through Citadel have probably more or less already made their way past.
Yeah, it's interesting because these guys have a lot of experience landing here, so they, you'd expect to be much more familiar in terms of understanding how much Surge you can get in and out of this spot. Right now, though, it seems rather quiet. What does I suspect of somebody behind that hill? But yeah, eventually you've got to think they'll start moving away. Finding some more Surge, another avenue.
Strophy and Kylie looking good. A little bit late in zone to rotate on out, but the early zones don't deal too much damage, so as long as you have the heals, you will be well off. But Storm Surge, that's a huge question in a lobby like this. I'm going to go ahead and throw it over to Mini-Miner to break down Fast Strokey and Kylie's Storm Surge strategy.
Thank you, Jacob. Yes, Fast Strokey and Kylie landing at the south side of the map, just to the west of Kenjutsu Crossing. Let's break down how they go about their off-spawn strategies. We can see them very, very split, looting up separately. They actually dip into the zone in order to get some of those Storm Surge tags. We see Kylie doing that on the screen right now. And something that I find really interesting about this duo is as soon as they do get these tags, they actually dip back into the Storm, and that's the position that we're seeing them in right now on the live feed. So this is what they're doing. They're going back into the zone, able to use these natural heals, like the Slurp Trucks, and of course these Slurp Barrels that are all the way back here. Really, really great map knowledge from this team, but if the zone does continue to fall north, they might run into some problems, so we'll see how they do.
So the storyline has been laid out by Mini-Miner. We're going to check in to see how that team is performing if the zone continues to pull north. And we might even check them out if the zone does not, see how they're taking control of their advantages in a lot of the situations. We see Vortex and Belushi using the kinetic ore to try to rotate as fast as possible. A lot of teams having to think outside of the box and use things that wouldn't normally do as they're just trying to capture that Shattered Slab's vault. So they're going to be there for a while before we tune in with them again as Seti and Cammy already in a fight. Multiple teams nearby at that, not just them and another one. That's Hedra, that's Dexy on one side. And it does look like the high ground is going to be taken away from Cammy and Seti. So if they're looking to rotate, they're going to have to go through Blaha, Mixin, and Dexy and Hedra, unless they just go right back into the zone and figure out another way to rotate.
Okay, we thought the fighting over at Breakwall Bay was done earlier, but seems that's not the case. Finally being wrapped up here, this Nebs and Hellfire fought. So as I say that, the fighting never stops here, does it?
Good, your favorite POI was brutal. A lot of these players are saying maybe it's Breakwater. There's a lot to fight for, especially this could be the slower side of the map with not a lot of teams landing here in the zone, pulling towards that direction, but not much compared to that south side. As Swizzy and Putrick just trying to bob and weave in and out of these covers, deal some damage, but keep themselves on the advantageous end. As Slowbay using the breacher to break through the builds, get it all underneath his control. Has to be careful there. You turn the corner at the wrong time. You enter in your opponent's builds. It could be all over. And you see his teammate taking the high ground and going all the way to the front side to try to figure out exactly where they're located so they continue to put down this pressure. But in the feed, Cammy goes down to Fast Strokey. Even Yapko picking up one as this fight does slow down just a little bit. You see Asa just trying to hide his movement, hide his location. That way Swizzy probably peeks at the wrong time. But on the other side, Slowbay still dealing damage with that breacher. And there goes the peek I was talking about. Doesn't land the shot. So that opportunity went right out the window.
You can see Asa very much trying to control the direction this one goes. Swizzy and Putrick though will be quick to wrap around him, come up from behind. Swizzy, he's no stranger to hitting big shots, and that's what he'll do here. The reload of the pistol is always going to be scary for anybody about. You know, he has devious intentions with that in hand.
And they can continue to stay here. They can take this fight, both of them, for as long as it takes. Early storm damage, not far to rotate the zone. As long as they have some heals in their back pockets, it's not going to be too much of a worry. As you see, they're not really wanting to disengage just yet. When you expend as many resources as they have in this fight, it's hard. And you can even see the fake going out. Swizzy's fake running away. Putrick's finally going to follow. They didn't peek quick enough, so now this is just going to be a pure disengage out of Putrick and his teammate.
Can you blame him?
No, I can't. It's too long for my liking, and you saw their inventory. They didn't have a ton of heals. So even if they didn't take much damage to the storm, once they get out, they're going to have to be looking for more instead of rotating, trying to get a better spot in the zone. So they want to try just beat them to the punch. Early Rift Island going down. It's there laughing and show them. New drop spot, and now the Rift Island. Extra chance at those mid-map objectives, and they're going to take 15 just like that.
That's nice. We know that this is a team that wants to play for it. They want to play that way. They want to dominate everything. They want to have the best loot in their game. And 4 slurps and Shodom's inventory is pretty in line with that, I'd say. Max materials as well. Doesn't really get much better than this, Jacob.
Definitely does not, especially you add in the height that they have with that mammoth. Once they start feeling comfortable enough to start peeking off, that's where a lot of this lobby will begin to feel that pain. Savage and Fadil. They get the vault underneath Rift Island. Not as fruitful of loot, but at least it's something. You're seeing him kind of change in and out, get extra ammo. Top his shields off with those slurp barrels to try to give himself the best chance, but a fight's going to break down from one side to another. Trippin instantly ends one, and the help from Hedra on the other. So that's another duo down and out of this lobby, but now the eyes are set on both Breath Guards and Trippin as they have a long journey to go before they're in zone yet again.
Yeah, they need to just sort of white line their way in here. It's going to be hard for them to wrap on either side. They're going to try cutting, but even then there'll be difficulties there. Refs has done well there. The player's sort of stuck in your face. You just got to hit the shots, and he did.
Kind of one of those situations. Ronnie missed the breacher. It's not as easy to hit those breacher hip fires, especially when you're moving and grooving just like that. But those are those pains that if I would have just hit the shot, it would have been a different song and dance. As Fast Stroke and Kylie in the feed, he took down Cammy very, very early on. That's their one elimination. That credits to 315 above the damage threshold when it comes to Storm Surge. It's just their position right now. They're unable to continue moving forward. You see how busy it is on the southern side of the map. So they're not going to bite off more than they can chew in any one of these moments. They're just playing calm, cool, collected to get to the next stage of the game. As the zone closed, next one is going to begin to reveal itself, and that's where a lot of these players are going to have to rotate. But as I called out, Cammy being down, Cammy being out, well, he's back up, and now they have Storm Surge to worry about.
Yeah, listen, we're accustomed to seeing them in. We often see them in better positions, more controlled, more say on how other people around them have to play the game. Here though, scrambling for anything that will keep them alive at the moment to try and outheal.
The thing is, if they still have their heals, they can try to...
Fanayan could do the funniest thing ever here. Oh, man.
Imagine how sad he feels right now. I just got you up.
That's tough. But I know Fanayan will be very happy about that.
Good loot, resources. Said he realizes he probably can't make it his own, so he's going to try to fight his way out. And well, he exited back to the lobby. See Ref's guard healing up backside of zone. And since it wasn't them that actually fought him, he can actually rotate almost unnoticed, especially since the zone is now pulling back in their direction. $110 below the damage threshold. This is where a lot of these teams don't necessarily get to dictate how they get to play anymore. If you're above on Surge, you play comfortable. If you're below on Surge, you need to figure out how you're going to be able to find it. A couple shots into the distance, unable to land any, so his job continues. Spots a couple teams around him, but doesn't want to put himself in any position in which he thinks is dangerous. Here's a player down low, goes up, 1v1 situation, a chance for Storm Surge, but Caden's just backing up, and there goes the one pump, and there goes the Surge that he needed to barely tip him over the top.
I feel like I don't see that a lot nowadays. Well, it was a nice one there. All he could see was the head, and that's all he had to hit to clean it up.
From one side that is just stacked and heavy, to this side of the map that very little teams have a chance to rotate to just yet. It's the center of the actual zone that just seems stacked. 5, maybe even 6 teams there battling it out. It's Fanayan trying to make up once again. A big play and a big shot going to be fired onto him. He gets forced back, but Moneymaker is there to alleviate some of that pressure. He's going to drop down, start the fight, but another team, Smokey and Wheat, begin to move in. And the drop from the top, Wheat doesn't see it coming. Fanayan is able to knock down one, battling from behind, gets that piece underneath his control, tries to go back-to-back, but it's Fadil out of nowhere with an elimination and a chance to get Mr. Savage back up and back into the game.
I thought it was going to be all over for a moment when Savage dropped there. It seemed like everything was going against him. But Vidil doing the business. The problem is, though, in that time that Savage has been brought back to life, it looks like another team, it's Trippin and Refs, are going to have something to say about it. And we know Trippin and Refs have been sort of just lagging behind this whole game, playing the catch-up. And finally now an opportunity to finally get ahead of another team. And that's Mr. Savage and Vidil they'll try and move in front of.
Brave about this all is Refsguard even got Tripper and re-loot card and back into the game during that earlier fight that we saw go down between Seti and Cammy. And now this is their chance. A second life here in game number 3, especially for Trippin with 66 points. This is the last game before the half, and it's very indicative of how you really get to perform on that last half of the day, especially if you're fighting for first to get as many series points as possible, cushion your lead before week 3. But Mr. Savage goes down to the backside of zone. A short-lived revive for him. Now it's all up to the deal yet again.
Oh, the side Snazy. Another game where, here at this stage, they're just causing havoc. They're really making it difficult for players. You see there, just crashing onto Flixie and Grippe.
Refs and Trippin are down now. You see Hide on Bush and Mixon taking down each of those 2 players. Gripe's going down as well. So many teams getting stacked and jumbled due to Storm Surge. And for those that are above, that get aggressed on, it's just one of those situations where you can't really control it. You just got to get away from all the madness, as Deal still doing good by himself. He quickly goes towards the mud before he rotates on over. Unfortunately, enough, he ends up in the water, so no more mud for you. Deal has some height to overcome. See some teams rotating in the distance, even one behind that tags up the deal just a little bit. He has 6 big pot. Shields aren't necessarily a worry. For him, it's just getting to zone, saving as much of that HP as possible.
And he did well to even get up and over that hill there. And often see players just getting stuck underneath and caught out, especially when they're solos. So Vidil doing a brilliant job moving through here. Great timings, blocking his back off, making sure not to take too many risks, not getting too greedy. And it is paying off for him.
It's paying off tenfold. Slap Juice being popped for Podosai, trying to get himself back up to tip-top shape. Spots out Belushi on the other side of that cover. It's not a fight he's going to take just yet. They know they just got to wait a couple more seconds before zone begins to pull. They're one of many teams on the front side as well, so getting greedy here could be disastrous for anybody in this lobby.
Uguay and Hen. Feels like a flashback to many years ago in the competitive scene, seeing these guys up above the rest of the lobby. There was once a time where these two would have been considered arguably the best duo in all of Fortnite. And even though we are far removed from that time, this is a chance for them to kick it back to the past for just one game at least. But it is always difficult to hold on to height from this early of the zones. Always going to have so many players looking up at it. You see Snazy and Podosai playing here, second height. They're going to potentially start looking.
Okay.
If you can stay alive, Snazy just fell to fire, bro, there. And the will profit from that one as well. He's thinking, oh my goodness, how about I just walked into that? Well, how is he going to walk out with a player in his box? He needs to try and create some space, create some distance. And he's going to have to use all the remaining builds he has really to just try and get away.
From his solo clutch third zone in week 1 to watching it here again in week 2. Vidil is a must-watch in everybody's eyes, but Hen, Uguay, they've solidified and reinforced that high ground. Podosai, he is a solo without Snazy, trying to travel through all this chaos without very many builds, trying to drop somebody into the palm of his hands. The shot's going to be fired, but that's a decision he's going to regret. He gets turned and turned, taken down, sit back. This and have a chance at height if they have the builds to match it.
Into the zone right now. Too ideal. Now they're going to be the ones lagging back behind because they went for it early in the transition. Are able to see their way into zone. Actually will continue zone moving again. Not looking at it, not watching their flanks, and he will get caught out. This is the problem with
resources. Let's show Stooney. Steno towards the high ground. Everybody below here has a solo, trying to maneuver, trying to bypass everybody. So many pieces are not his, so he's in position. They're laughing. Now stacking outside the zone.
Almost Swizzy, Putrick to try and move up this hill. No materials is going to be so tough for Swizzy to even really do anything. Trying to stay alive. Seeing as all these players with such low mats are trying to move up. It's going to be a matter of who just has anything to even build with and protect themselves right now. And so for Comeback, he sits above comfortably. And he's just going to weigh it out. He doesn't need to make any sort of movements, any sort of plays. All his opponents are going to just fall at the wayside. It's too easy for Comeback as he just sits there. He was the one with the builds. He was the one with the prime position. And so he can sit back, relax, kick his feet up, and claim the victory. And he will be chuffed about how that one's gone for him.
Yeah, it's one of those games. It doesn't kind of pan out like you think it did, but you close it out in the end. A huge effort. That was a big find on Alushi there, and that's where they continue the ball rolling. They continue to pressure all those teams. Even though Perhawa did eventually go down towards the backside of the zone, these refreshes that Konvic was able to find were massive and set him over the edge because he doesn't even have any heals.
Look, as much as Combat gets all the praises for being the one in the final moments to close things out, but Howell was going crazy. 5 eliminations as well. The work he put in to set them up to be in that kind of position should not go unnoticed. This duo, again, will be very, very chuffed. The zones worked in their favor, and they're able to claim a win because of it.
Yeah, but we did see at the beginning of that game, Thomas and Malabuka open the gates up for anybody to close that gap.
In first place, Dunzo, right? Suddenly, floodgates are open. We can jump up these standings. We can. Here comes a mad. Themselves a victory royale. 8 eliminations as well. A massive kickstart to their day here.
Yeah, I mean, to just highlight the count. It's going to be even a larger jump. The comeback of them individually as a team, right? Their first team took out 50th and 24th for the Trez.
The only team that was basically able to keep up with these moving zones were actually pulling back over some of that natural heights when the terrain and definitely another comment. The fact that other teams were essentially left with no kills of their own, but I kind of couldn't help but notice Hen seemed to play a little bit of spoiler there for their lap. For Hen. Into your vicinity, it's easy to get caught off guard, but won't impact their lapping and show them too heavily as they've actually worked their way up into second place.
Thomas, they had a massive lead, so though they dropped the ball here, it's fine, right? They're still Pablo. Put on a show for us here. Now again, we're halfway through the competition. They're trying to based on where they end up in the game. Determine how many points still on that separate leaderboard. Highlight, but I think an upcoming, very special interview with a shining member of our. How did this feel, right? Finally, and for did it?
Yeah, this game was a bit slower than I feel like some of the runs. Not a lot of teams probably in the end game.
But it's all good. Remember, 3. It is ready, a shining member of our very own team. We had her on before. Why not bring her back? It is none other than Mama Benji Fish. Are struggling. Do you have any insight, any advice for the duos to try and make
see what's around you and try and make the most of it.
Yeah, of course, keep your eyes peeled. And, you know, everybody watching at home is keeping their eyes peeled on a lot of these duos that are still in the running for a spot at the Global Championships. And out of the ones not qualified yet, who do you have your eyes on?
Well, obviously, I want to see Mr. Savage and Vidil get through to the finals.
Of course.
As well as some of the sort of like the OGs, so like Andretta, Lecce, but also like I'd quite like to see Jalen and Vico. Those get through as well. But it's tough. There's so many of them that I would like to see.
Of course, everybody loves seeing some of the competitors that we have for these duos, but Amine.y, you are known for basically attending every single Fortnite event. So with the Global Championship happening in Denmark later on this year, can we expect to see you there? And if so, what are you most looking forward to?
Oh, absolutely, yes. I've already got everything all booked, so really looking forward to coming along. I think it's a great opportunity to be able to meet everyone in person. And the whole atmosphere of like a LAN event, the last rally event was incredible. So I'm looking forward to seeing the atmosphere of the LAN and getting to meet you guys, hopefully.
Absolutely. We're going to make that time. Now, of course, for all the fans, where can they find you?
Just quite straightforward. Mama Benji Fishy on all socials. So straightforward.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. And of course, we can't wait to hang out with you at Globals.
Yeah, no, that would be great. Thank you so much for having me on the broadcast.
Absolutely. Mama Benji Fish. You guys got to go and follow her for sure. But it's that time. Halfway through, what happens? Let's find out right now. This is game number 4.
We're jumping right back in. It is time for us to continue the day. We've had 3 games already that have been very, very telling, Jacob, about how this competition is looking, how the season is shaping up as we head towards the grand finals. Look, I'm going to say this. We need to be very, 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 very excited as we have game number 4 right on the way. Let's jump in. Give me it. Let's hop into the action. Jacob, it's been a fun 3 game so far. I'd like to have seen, of course, that previous one was a bit of a switch up in pace and tempo, right? The first couple we were seeing these 2 titans on our screens, Malibuca and Thomas dominating the play. And let's see if we can actually get them doing that again. Of course, they went down off spawn after winning twice in a row. And Malibuca using that rifle like a laser beam. There's another player here. What's going on? There's not just 2 teams here now, there's 3. Malibuca and Thomas, they won off spawn, but are they going to actually survive this game off spawn? Because there is another team here. Fortunately, they've managed to grab their bearings relatively quick, so it's not going to be an easy cleanup and swoop in. But I was getting very, very worried there for a second. Gawid and Ronnie, they were trying to start something. They were trying to get involved in the action. Unfortunately for Malibuca and Thomas, it will be business as usual in regards to the off-spawn battle between them and my Goots and Heine. It didn't allow that long wait to derail their momentum. They've pushed on rather strong.
That was a big fight for Thomas and Malibuca, and to me, it's big for a number of reasons because now they have the confidence. I lost that off-spawn exchange in that last game, and if they didn't have the confidence before, now they know they could bounce back. They have that mental stamina to keep themselves going. And Swizzy and Putrick, they're looking for another opportunity, especially with that knock onto Roban. And now they're on the hunt to where that solo teammate could be hiding at, but they're going to take a pause. They know it's going to take some time if they want to go back and get that reboot card. So they're going to stop, get that hollow chest, bolster their loot before they continue moving forward.
Oh, dear me. Malibuca putting that flapjack rifle to work. since day one of the season, Jacob, I've said, like, this rivalry, the sound of it is just so intimidating when players are just spraying you down with it.
And then 7 seconds of continuous spray because of the 45 bullets in the mag, and then you add on the slower rate of fire than some of the other rifles. If you time it right with your teammate, you can continuously make that player hold on to their covers. Thomas and Malabuka just going up and around. It's like you try to third-party me, you see exactly what happens. The blink of an eye, down goes one. Thomas is there, ready to clean up the next, has the sharp tooth, the back-to-back as well, with the shot coming in from above. Possible third party lending that helping hand, and that's their Lavely who steals away that elimination. But it started off with that Mammoth and Thomas HD causing so much chaos from across the map. But a fight that we've seen so many times. Slove and Asa just trying to go against their opponents. A lot of shields just being dropped down. MK Alpha dealing out so much damage, and they have them separated. Slove is going to be the first one there, trying to knock on the door of Swizzy, not allow him to heal, and there goes that knock as he tries to get away. Now it's up to Pootrick to try to figure out what he's going to do as a solo, and he's spotted out from a mile away, and the shots continue to get fired off in the distance. Luckily for him, he turns the corner at the last second to keep his game alive.
Yeah, Asa and Slove, as much as they haven't maybe had the influence in some of the latter game, they've definitely been ever present in sort of the earlier and mid-game parts. And we see them not afraid to take fights, and sometimes it punishes them. At a time like this, they will come out on top.
So for a lot of these teams, you get your early damage, elimination, whatever it may be, you put it in your back pocket. You continue to have your eyes set forward, setting. What seemed like a smooth game plan throughout the first two. Now getting more and more contested. More and more players rotating in their direction, so it's not going to be as easy as a drop as it was up until this point. And that's Teeny who has that little bit of high ground. Joe Claus is separated along with Cammy. So you kind of have mirrored situations between the two, but again, it's the Mammoth pistol coming out from Cammy that makes the difference, allowing Seti to go forward. He sees that as green light. He's ready to go, but he disengages for that short second. Cammy gets fired back on, and now they both have realized the situation that they're in. They're going to stabilize and reset.
Last game for Cammy and Seti was not in line with the kind of games you expect them to have. Very much struggled a bit, and so this time round, not going to be the same, at least from the beginning it looks like. It looks like they'll be able to play the game a bit more accustomed to the way they used to.
Jitsu fight. We've seen a few times today. Again, you can see by the minimap alone, the two actual teams landing there are taking way too long to deal with each other, which kind of forces in third parties. You even saw Savage and Vidil rotating in that direction to try to go ahead and clean that one up, get more points for their totals, get Surge early on so they don't have to worry about it as much later in the game. And they know at least one more player's there. Griff, gotta be careful if you're popping the minis and the big pots. They will hear you healing, and they will know you're down there. And that's exactly why you could see them not even looking like they're disengaging. They know somebody's down there, and they're ready to look for them, no matter how long it takes.
Will their stubbornness cost them, though, is the question, in terms of timing. Ooh, we heard him. Kylie heard him. And fortunately for Strokey, he's right there, because for a moment, Griff really could have made that interesting. Caught Kylie out.
Yeah, it's that last switch you said to yourself. As soon as he switches to Havoc, try to defend himself, that's the same thing that gave him away. Janice and Reason trying to pick up the pace here in the second half of the day. But it's Nebs and Hellfire who they have in their lines of sight. And they're continuously falling, trying to push them outside of the zone. There's another team right in. The first shot from Mam's going to be fired. A near miss. As Nebs survives, he's able to rotate a lot quicker. He's using the ice in the minimap. You can see it to try to rotate very, very similar to what teams are doing with the mud.
And to be fair, considering the stakes for them, it's been quite a quiet day. We know that they need to be one of the teams doing much better today. Of course, they missed out on significant amounts of series points in week 1 as they didn't qualify through to round 3. So they need to make up for that here today. show them, and they're laughing, doing exactly as they need to be doing, right? When you are trying to claim a spot that is so heavily contested, like secluded Spire, when you do get the chance to play out at that spot, you need to be dominating. You need to be playing well. That's exactly what they're doing.
Especially if the ball spawns on that side of the map. You got to take advantage of the free 3 points, all that loot. And then the rotation. This zone would be perfect for a rotation out of that POI. But what was once a 52-point lead for Malibuca and Thomas has been cut down little by little. And if they want to continue to build on that lead that they started in the first couple of games, they're going to need a huge momentum shift, especially since they won that off-spawn exchange quite easily. And you add on the fact that there was actually a third party there as well, probably going back into the VODs, watching what goes down towards the racetrack, and in their mind they thought, hey, this could be a free third party, especially if they don't see us coming. But it actually was the opposite. They finished their fight quickly, turned around, and then took out the team that was attempting to third party. And that's just adding to their totals. Now they see them quickly trying to move in towards zone. And they're one of the teams that we know goes for Rift Island more times than not, but not today so far. So I'm expecting it's about time that they try to contest up there.
Yeah, I'd love to see them have it. I feel like a lot of the Rift Island fights we've seen today haven't been quite as grueling as what we saw in week 1 at times.
You see them just instantly trying to rotate across the map. They have some sort of blueprint or sense of where that zone is going to pull, and they're putting all their eggs in that basket. As we tune into Potasai and Snazy, who are getting their loot cache. Unfortunately, it isn't legendary, but judging by their loadout right now, it is definitely going to be a massive upgrade to what they currently possess. There goes the shots again. You kind of see when the players are getting chunked out by the Mammoth. Shield bar just disappears with just one shot. And it's kind of like that double-edged sword. It deals a huge amount of damage, the potential for a knock, but same thing could be said if you're one rotating in the open, just like we're seeing Kylie and Fastroki begin to do. They don't got far to go before they are on Steamy Springs, and they have options. They can kind of white line to the zone where you see Steamy Springs ending, or they continue to rotate towards the south, where more times than not is going to be the least congested side of the map. It's going to allow you a little bit more flexibility to kind of rotate in and out of the zone.
Kylie and Fastroki very much been the kind of team where, given the chance to get their surge out the way early and pick their spots, they will often pick the right spots, right? We're seeing them deep in games, really just making things happen. And I think it's because of these sort of aggressive early plays, like where they are going for surge in this kind of manner, capitalizing on teams who maybe quite haven't got their rotations on point.
Clean and easy rotate. A lot of those teams that were already north rotated earlier on in this game, so it doesn't look as congested right now, but a lot of teams need to prepare. If it continues to pull towards the south side, it is going to get more and more congested, where a lot of the teams are going to stack up and not necessarily try to gatekeep, but that's just kind of what happens when so many teams are stacked up on that side of the zone, as Vidal and Mr. Savage are taking that rotation I was talking about early on. You just continue to go south, you go to the least congested part of the map, but it only really works if you're piled up on that storm surge damage, which I hope they are.
There's certainly been opportunities for them too, as they've rotated all the way from the east to the west.
And this is a moment for pause. They have all that loot here in this situation. We talked about the Mammoth pistol and how much damage it does in an instant. So they want to make sure that their shields are topped off. So that way, if they do get tagged up in the distance, it lessens the potential of that getting down. And if you see in the feed, I thought I saw Reason going down somewhere, maybe even Janice, so they're probably stuck in a fight, just like a lot of these teams that are on the north side of the map as the zone continues to pull towards the south.
Yeah, it's not easy to traverse through. But last season we saw players with very much sort of almost cheat rotations with the katanas. It was quite easy to get from point A to point B. Now we're seeing these guys get punished much more often. Oh my goodness, they're laughing, and show them are going to be cut out from the lobby much earlier than they would have liked.
situations where we talk about opportunity to the vault. Have to be able to capitalize. And they're laughing. He just didn't get the memo to back up and change layers. By the time they went to reunite, it was just too little, too late. And a huge reward for Teeny and Joe Kloss. They got 4 slurp juices, 6 splashes as well. Not going to waste any time popping the first because he gets beamed trying to go up towards Rift Island. This is where the contest is going to come out. Teams, game after game, are realizing the valuable 15 points that is up for grabs and the loot at the top of Rift Island. Third-party shots coming in the distance. Joe Kloss got to be careful. Damage from all around being dished out. He can feel the pressure. But you can see Teeny, calm, cool, collected, not making too many antsy plays to try to save his teammate, keeping his angle and let his teammate reunite with him. That's where they're going to find the safety and the strength in numbers. Oh. Huge opportunity there. Tries to go for a jump shot, but it's better and Darm who take him down. You can see the loot, the mythic MK Alpha. You can tell they at least traveled through Rumble Ruins to get that one, and they're continuously putting that pressure to try to back down their opponents layer by layer, keep everything that they're around underneath their control, and it's just right there from being captured. So if they can somehow push Joe Kloss and Teeny out of this position, they can easily capture and then backtrack to get the lead.
You see both these teams just, again, playing it slow, trying to claim and control every single build there as possible. For Teeny and Joe, they're just going to try and catch one of the players out. They know that they're somewhat split here. They see them attacking from both sides. It's almost about picking which one do we aggress onto. How do we change the tempo and the pace of this fight? Catch them out when they're not really expecting it. Darm, though, very much going to be the player who didn't get focused. And so, as both players split, Joe and Teeny will execute the plan to perfection. Jumped in on Better when Darm wasn't ready. And then once they picked up Better, they switched their focus onto Darm and took him out rather swiftly as well. These guys currently are very much on it when it comes to these 2v2 fights.
Yep, those are those split-second decisions that make or break the game. But we're going to go ahead and throw it on over to Mini so he can show us the impact of these vaults and these mid-match objectives.
Thank you, Jacob. We saw teams battling it out for that island. That is, of course, very valuable. But another thing that's valuable are, of course, these vaults. We can see teams really prioritizing these when they're at their drop spot and when they do get the spawn of the key. We can see Acer and Slove going inside of that vault, and it's valuable. Of course, you get 3 points for it, but you, of course, also get some loot as well. That mythic flapjack and, of course, all the extra heals that are there. These guys are set up for success, and they've got a boost of points. I'm excited to see how they do in this game.
Excited is almost a little bit of an understatement for a team. I really want to see perform to the best of their abilities, but Malabuka seeming like he's already knocked. They have 4 eliminations. Now Thomas has his back up against the wall. Already you can see in the feed, catching up. The eliminations have been cleaned up. Thomas was just getting third-partied and sprayed out for that moment, and you see him expending these extra builds just so that way he can build more real estate, build more cover to try to get that revive onto Malabuka. They're back into the game, and let's see if they can make up for that opportunity that they almost just lost.
Yeah, there's no time to waste for them, right? Of course, one of their biggest competitors, the team that could potentially catch up, has gone down, so they need to try and do their best to extend the lead. And just for us, for the sake of the story, imagine how incredible that would be. The 3 games, you actually see them get to play out. 3 wins. That would be pretty crazy. Refs currently now trying to avenge Trippin. As this fight, not a favorable angle, but he does actually come out the favorable player, swinging to his left through a window in it. That's not one you often see. And both players just missing there.
Above and over.
Nice.
Finish that one.
The siphon comes in from both players as well, and so we're getting back to a decent HP spot. You can save the medkit as he gets closer and closer to the zone. I think he might have spotted something else that you could have used.
Yeah, it almost seemed like he was toying with the idea of taking the Mammoth. But you kind of see the situation it is. He has to travel all the way to zone. He's going to need those medkits later. Cammy's going to need something. His teammate goes down. He gets a knock on the Hellfire, but the luck has just run out. Nebs again. It's that Breacher Mammoth combo tearing through builds, and now you add in that Mythic tactic, it's almost over.
Yeah, that's really tough, man. All these players on congested getting caught in these little fights that they can't really escape from. And even after all that battling, you still got to make a pretty long rotation into zone alongside a lot of these different angry teams that you know are going to be hungry for surge. Nebs and Hellfire, they ain't got to worry about that. There's a 500 above. And it looks like they're going to even actually choose to look for a rift here. We'll see how that plays out for him.
Well,
Say it ain't so. Surely not.
I think we're literally going to see how it plays out for him.
Oh my gosh. Not again. Surely not.
Why did they test him?
My goodness. Thomas HD.
I
He's
feel
just
like
unbelievable.
I feel like every FNCS should have been a warning of that.
Every single day on my timeline, I'm seeing people posting their best clips, you know, hitting shots with this. Oh my days, Thomas. He's telling every single.
No way!
Oh no, what are we watching?
I don't know, for some reason I'm not scared for him.
You
I'm
think
not
you're the
scared
king?
for
He's
him.
the king. He's the best. You can't stop him. Mammoth pistol in hand. Who's better? I don't think there's anybody else. He's stuck underneath some builds here, and look, there's a good chance he might go down, stuck between like 2 or 3 different teams. But the entertainment alone we just got from Thomas HD, that is why he is considered one of the best in the game. Oh my goodness, that was unbelievable.
I literally thought we went from one replay to another replay of Thomas HD, but nah, that was live. That was in action, and quick thinking coming out of him. But unfortunately, him and Malibuka were just a little too separated there. You saw Malibuka go down, and then him one by one separated. It's not what you want to have happen, but Mikey, Mazarek, they're in a nice position here, especially with the zone pulling and opening up in other direction. That's going to allow them more comfortability, more options about where they want to rotate to. Similar to Podesai and Snazy. So, north side of the map, they're going to slowly take all that space, knowing that there should not be any teams positioned here at this stage in the game.
Yeah, the best positioning they could have in the lobby, and look at the setup. Podesai, all the heals he could possibly ask for, maxed on materials, the best spot in the zone. And I think this should be a top game for them, considering a lot of their top opposition have fallen already.
Yep. Back-to-back games where a window of opportunity has opened for a lot of these players to climb up the ranks, and this is going to be a tight leaderboard after week 3 for those teams that are at least maybe 40 through 50th would typically kind of go to Surge Week along with the rest of those teams. It's going to be very, very tight, very, very close, as Nebs is feeling that same pressure. If he can get out of this alive, he has 4 slurp juices. It's not going to take him long to get healthy in this situation, and that layer change was huge. If he would have stayed there, they would have continued to put that pressure. He would have been unable to pop the slurp juice, but because he changed layers, he went up just one different box. That's going to make sure Nebs is as healthy as can be for this next rotation.
Yeah, but going into the moving zones with only wood available, Jacob, is never the kind of spot you want to be in as a player. So vulnerable, so weak to the rest of the lobby. As good with the mouse in hand, it's going to be a really, really tough end game for Nebs to really make anything happen. Synod and Irazumi sitting perched up above everybody else in the lobby, but they don't really have what it takes to hold on to height. The resources they have available just aren't good enough.
Right now, since they did pull zone, they're going to be one of the first teams that have a huge opportunity to take away that high ground and try to hold on to it. They're looking healthy up until this point. Fastroki and Kylie just trying to rotate. They're the farthest team out right now. They don't have very many teams in front of them, but the ones that do, they not only have high ground, but they have that mammoth pistol, which drained Kylie's shields just like that. And it doesn't look like they have very many heals to get him back up to chip-top shape, so they're going to have to kind of think outside of the box. We know eventually a Siphon and a refresh is going to be in the back of their minds, but where are they going to be able to pick it up at? Everybody getting a far pull this time around. I think maybe 6 teams getting the front side of the zone. So this is where we're going to see a lot of players begin to rotate side by side with each other and making that decision. Do you fire the shots? Do you got to go unnoticed along with that player is going to be so crucial and impactful in order to keep you alive. Wishu Deno, just continue to rotate towards the outside of the zone. They want to go through unnoticed, but Podesai and Snazy, they're just going beeline straight towards the zone, and that's what's causing them to take so much damage. There's a lot of teams that are positioned that don't have to rotate just yet that have now made them a focus, including the ones right under Snazy, and that's why he's going up. This is a great layer change at this stage of the game, especially if it continues to go unnoticed.
So punishing that zone for all those teams, especially because so many other teams are just set up perfectly to absolutely capitalize off of it. Snazy now just gonna have to run through. You see all these stairs being placed behind him, trying to block off his angles as he taps his way in. And this next zone transition is going to be so crucial to how the rest of this game plays out. You see Kylie and Fastrokey up on second height, maybe looking up towards it to see who exactly is playing for it and what they can do. They're actually very low material. So look, yeah, they're going to look to try to drop down. They want to find a refresh elsewhere. And it's not going to come. Fastrokey a bit confused. He can't even see who's actually taking him out. Looking in all different directions. It's like he's fighting a ghost right now. And Kylie, with no materials left, really just has to hope and pray that something can fall into his path. But you can see just how tough it is. All the changes in elevation, Lucia dropping all the way down, and it's actually favorable for him. At first it felt like a bit of a mistake, and maybe now it will feel like a mistake because he looks like he's going right back to the lobby. Both players down.
That would have been a great chance to rotate with the kinetic ore if he was able to stay alive. That's neither here nor there. But it's Snazy's chance to sign. But he has one build, and you see Teeny, that was the player that just took down a couple of them. That's Joe Kloss as well. They have the high ground, and if the zone continues to pull in that direction, they can solidify it by connecting, but Kylie goes down. Slovade takes him out, and he gets granted almost every heal in the book. He starts off with the Slurp Juice. He has 2 med mist in his back pocket, but zone hasn't closed yet. He has to start making a way forward, or it's all for nothing.
Slovade creeping his way in. Asa isn't there. And all these materials now are going to be just enough to keep him alive.
Teeny just putting that pressure there. He's just looking for any opportunity with the Mammoth, but staggering himself to the backside so no sneak attacks come through. Joe Kloss is putting the pressure there with the Flapjack. Trulix, a solo, staggering himself outside of the zone. The men miss. It's now or never. He's trying to out-heal anybody for those placement points, and already he's going to get 2 more for his efforts. Running out of that men miss, it has to think about where he's going to push, where he's going to get that siphon, and Vico and Pink might be the targets in his sight.
It's not been the kind of day they will be riding home and celebrating about. But if they can use this game to turn things around, it will be the best momentum boost for them. Struggling though, they can't really do much other than hit their shots now. No materials, and Teeny and Joe are not gonna let it happen. They drop down at the perfect time and pick up the win. An ever-present force throughout these games, and finally picking up a victory out to match it.
Yeah, you've seen them pick up huge eliminations in the distance. Third party stealing away impactful points from around the lobby. And you can see from the moment that had that high ground, they did not let it out of their sights, and dropping down at the perfect moment, they realized it was a 2v2 situation. They had to jump on their opponent, and there goes the first knock on to Vico. And from there, it was easy as can be. They saw Pink, and they caught him out in the open to get that second elimination and the VR.
Yeah, Pink and Vico did incredibly well there under the circumstances, but just at the end, they didn't have enough to hold on and really make that final 2v2 something worthwhile, right? They couldn't build and protect their angles, nothing like that. It was all about Teeny and Joe dropping down at the perfect time. And a really nice win for them again. They've been a team that's been here. It's not like they've come from nowhere. They have been a part of all these games, and we've seen their journey throughout the day. But they finally pick up a win in a game where a lot of the people up at the top of the leaderboard didn't quite have the best games, Jacob.
Yep, that means that window of opportunity to jump up as many spots as you can is going to be there. And with the first game of the half done, I'm going to go throw it over to Zeke in the game to break down that leaderboard.
Listen, Vivid Taco, this one was a weird one, okay? It was just chaos from beginning to end. Now, don't get me wrong, there were some really cool highlight moments. There were some crazy clutch individual solo plays. But overall, this has got to be one of the more chaotic games I feel like I've seen in EU in a while.
Yeah, I mean, Lurgon was popping off with all that chaos we're talking about. Meanwhile, Joe and Teeny are kind of just riding it out on the high ground, like Jacob had mentioned there. Once they got a hold of that high ground, nobody could even come close to contesting it for them. I feel like every other game that we've seen today, we've seen these little contests go for the high ground. This was more like one of those week 1 style games where high ground was just able to ride it out and just build, those flats and those cones, and that was it.
Yeah, it's not even like Teeny and Ninja had like all of the essential materials that you would necessarily want. I mean, they were running relatively low on builds there towards the very end. It's just that nobody else in the lobby has even close. Like, they don't even have a fraction of the builds necessary to try and begin even making that trek to tarp through into second height and then look up towards that ultimate high ground layer. I think that the idea there for Vico and Pink, they were trying to utilize as many of those builds on the bottom to kind of provide as much coverage for as long as possible, but eventually it just runs out, and then you have to go for the challenge, and it's a hard one to win from that position.
Yeah, very, very tough. Let's take a look at our leaderboard. I want to see how the standings are shaping up. Remember, we only have 2 more games to go, and then we're divvying out some series points. Malabuka and Thomas. Thomas decided I'm a lone gunman. I have a mammoth pistol, you say, is basically sort of like a sniper in hand. I'll just chain together a handful of eliminations. So just stay up at the top. Why not?
Oh, yeah, well, why not just hit shot after shot after shot after shot after shot after shot after shot with the new mammoth pistol that does big damage when you do manage to land those shots. I mean, just incredible efforts out of this duo here, and it's one of the ones where it's just like, yeah, they didn't necessarily make it into the end game, but the shots were being landed and the eliminations came out. I mean, I have no idea what I'm even watching. It's like his own highlight reel.
Thomas was doing such a great job, though, at disorienting so many other duos in the lobby, teams that were trying to establish some form of mid-ground control and just positional control. But when you have these shots just breaking through from directions that you're not anticipating, and from a solo player at that, sure, Thomas winds up getting pincered at the very end there, but he still managed to basically keep himself in a vying position to where they can maintain their top placement right now in the leaderboard. But there's a reason why Thomas is looked at as one of the best snipers in EU, and he doesn't need the heavy sniper rifle to do it. A mammoth pistol apparently is just going to be the same exact thing for him.
Just disgusting coming out from Thomas HD. And again, this is kind of 2 rough games back to back. Remember, they won the first 2 games. Kind of have 2 subpar games, have had some difficulties, but with 2 games left to go, I'm sure they can look to pick up some steam and close out strong. I did want to highlight this duo that just jumped up into second place there, Vask and Older. Suddenly, they're looking to contest. They're trying to say, Malabuka Thomas, look, we get it, you guys are nuts, but we would like a first place finish if possible.
Yeah, very consistent team, actually. 3 top 10s for them already. That game was actually going to be their worst placing one so far with a 16th, so hopefully they can kind of return to form in game number 5, and I think they could definitely contest them in first place if Thomas and Malabuka have a tough rotation like they did in this one.
I think a lot of it also just boiled down to the fact that these were some pretty brutal moving zones. The way that it started to pull back over shattered slabs, it could be very difficult to actually micromanage that shift in layers, and especially when a lot of it's just from the natural terrain that Shattered Slabs has to offer. But so many of these teams just doing everything in their power to try and make sure they don't get caught up in somebody else's box.
Yeah, again, this no mobility meta, it is brutal, right? And for some of these duos, sometimes things go their way. They get that zone pop close by. They think it's fine. Other times, they have to travel very far distances across basically the entire lobby and hope that they can make it out. Now, I did want to look at the kind of overall damage we've seen by the numbers here in the competition so far. So we're going to highlight kind of a total number of damage dealt just in the 4 games we've seen. Better and Darm, 8,000 damage. You know what's crazy is I would have expected Thomas just to be in first place, right? You put a mammoth in his hand and say, I don't know, man, just send some shots out, pick up some eliminations. But looks like for Better and Darm, they're the ones pumping out the most damage so far.
Yeah, this is games 1 through 3, so after we calculate in and include game number 4 right there, I'm sure Thomas will definitely bump up, but I'm happy to see Snazy and Podesai right there in second place. because they have had a very consistent day as well. Every single one of their finishes has been top 15, and they're in 4th place right now. And I love the way that they position themselves in some of these end games, including that game right there. Unfortunate that those moving zones pulled completely opposite to them, or I guarantee we would have saw a victory route out of them as well.
But again, when you're seeing such a substantial difference between 1st and 2nd place as far as damage output overall, you almost have to wonder, for Better and Darm, if part of the issue might actually be their time to elimination. Some of these engagements they're taking might be going on for just a little bit too long to where they're having to compromise their rotational capabilities. And if they're not able to find that ideal positioning, you can have plenty of Storm Surge damage, but it's not going to really do you much good if you're not able to find that ideal spot to sit in to actually utilize it later on.
And I love that point, right? How many of these fights have we seen go like 30 seconds to a minute to 2 minutes in the Storm of as well? Like, we need to just start going in, getting these eliminations, and getting out, right? Because remember, with no mobility, those even 30 seconds is so valuable to a duo. But we got to focus back up on the competition. Only 2 more games to go, so I'll send it on over to our casters for the next one.
Game 5 is right here, right before us. And this is where a lot of those teams, if you're lower on that leaderboard and you had a bad week number 1, there is no time to waste. You might have to change up your game plan and get a little bit aggressive to pick up those points.
Yeah, drastic times call for the drastic measures, Jacob. Of course, it's the age-old story. This is a season where you can't rely on a surgery to save you. Surgery? What's that? No, none of that. Series points is the way. You have to have top performances in these round 3s. And for the teams that weren't here last week, you cannot let these 2 games just pass you by. You have to change your destiny. You have to change your fate. And that change starts now.
Yeah, especially for the early front runners on the day from games 1 through 3, going down early, hitting some speed bumps in the road. Those are opportunities, and vital opportunities at that you need to be able to take advantage of as a team, because you don't want to sit back, look at a low point game from one of our top leaders and realize you also had one of those low point games. So with game 5 and game number 6 even around the corner, it is a must for these teams to really pick up the pace. Are there any individuals that you're looking at that need to have a big game 5?
I got my eyes on all the individuals. Let's jump right into game 5.
Game 5 right here. You're seeing a west to east bus path. A little bit south at that tail end, helping some of those teams get to their drop spot that much faster. But there goes Thomas and Malabuka. Heine and Mygoot yet again right out of the gates, and they get a little bit of a split. Malabuka didn't even get a gun. Thomas, he's trying to back up and hold his position because you cannot let that slurp truck go for free either. Continues, just hold on to his position, his height, while Malabuka's just hunting, but he has to go far to get any bit of weapon, which means they have to disengage. That slurp truck has gone on over. Now Thomas has to be on the hunt for shields of his own, especially if they're looking to take this fight, because Heine is stepping up to the plate. He's ready to hit it out of the park if you give him an opportunity.
Yeah, they are hunting, but that might just leave a window, a gap for Malabuka to sneak in, and I think they were a bit cautious of it, so yeah, they won't continue to just run it down mid at Thomas. But it's interesting, right? It's rare that you see this fight sort of divulge into a disengage like this, especially with Malabuka and Thomas, right? They're rarely ever the guys to disengage in such a manner.
That's got to be a different boost of confidence on the other side. No, hey, you just backed off one of the best teams in the lobby, trying to build up that confidence, but you don't want to get too greedy. Simply don't want to bite off more than you can chew, especially going up against a team like this, and that's why you're seeing the continuous disengage. Nobody really taking the bull by the horns to try to fight this right out of the gates, especially with third parties looming around every other direction.
Shakos, we've not heard or seen that much from today. Him and Yusa have been a bit more quiet than what we typically would expect from them. But there are still 2 more games to try and turn that around.
Shots in the distance as well. User and Shakos have a decent footing here on the map, but when it comes to heals and getting themselves up into fighting shape, Need a little bit more, but luckily for them, that team that was just right around them began to disengage. Moneymaker as well, who is a solo. This is going to be a big game for some of these teams to try to put up as many points as possible. Doesn't matter how low you are on the leaderboard. Each position up that leaderboard grants you more and more series points added to your week 1 total. You add it to your week 3 total, and our top 50 teams in series points reach the grand finals.
Ariane and Caden. I feel like we always see them in these kind of spots, right, where they're just targeting a player and really just sort of hunting someone down. And you sort of look at it and you go, okay, that's nice, right? You guys have started off well, kicking off, and then it never turns into much more than that.
One fight to the next, though. There's no more waiting around. Groves, Clownski towards the bottom. Uguay with a little bit of height. It's basically their choice if they want to continue to try to contest this. Hold him out of zone. First shot's going to be fired off. Gets denied entry. Piece Control cannot go over just yet. Uguay continues to back up. Clownski and Grohl is hot on the chase. They don't want to let him go for free. Even have that potential third party closing in on the distance. Landing some shots. Uguay is going to go down, and you could see them immediately disengage as this fight ended. They just wanted damage. They didn't want to fight. They just wanted Storm Surge damage, and they're well on their way.
Thomas.y has more individual eliminations in FNCS Grand Finals than any other EU player. Absolutely astonishing from Thomas.y. I spoke to him recently, and I was saying to him, as much as he's not won that all-elusive FNCS, like, when you look at his consistency in competitive Fortnite history, there's nobody in EU that comes close to. It's ridiculous. He is literally probably the only player that you could argue has been a top 10 player in every year of EU competitive Fortnite.
That's impressive.
You look at 2019, he was sort of in and around that area. Then after that, 2020, 21, 22, 23, it's been unprecedented level of consistency from him.
It's primarily impressive due to how much the meta actually changes season after season. The POIs change season after season, chapter after chapter. It's almost like you have to relearn crucial aspects of the game. So being able to stay on top for so long, just like you said, not many say they can do the same. And show them in their laughing. Their new drop spot here is going to be, I would say, contested out of the gates, but contested for now by Merstash and Tayson. And there's no hiding because their laughing has the key, so they're always going to know where he's positioned at. As Merstash begins to put down the early damage onto the build, just trying to break through. And there goes a huge shot from the side. Hide on Bush with a sneak attack to land 140 damage on Show Them. Give them the advantage here in this fight.
Yeah, this is nice to begin things. But hide on Bush! Oh my goodness! Nah. Oh man, I praise this guy too much, and so I don't want people to go 11's glazing again, but are you kidding me? What have we just seen?
Nah, I think anybody's a fan of a play like this. He turned.
I mean, come on. Like, what are we doing here? What are we doing here? They've not been having the best day. Hide on Bush and Mustache. It's actually been a pretty torrid day by their standards. They've not been getting along. They've been arguing, Jacob. In fact, so much so, they literally played a couple games with, like, just no comms. They've just both were muted up, not even talking to each other, just playing. That's how bad it was getting today.
Hopefully in the second half, or last two games, they can make up for it. In my head, I'm thinking, you know, what duo, what couple doesn't face adversity within their own team? They fix it. They become stronger at the end. Just in a weekly finals, that's where it becomes a little question. See Thomas just trying to sneak his way in. Heine's already down. This is a fight right out of the gates. I don't know if it counts as off of drop, but there you go. Thomas and Malabuka looking like they already have one elimination. Lucy and Steno take away the other, so split the points between the two. And it looks like they're doing the same with the loot. Ooh. That's exactly what I was waiting for. That far pull here to the west side of the zone. Get a different view of that same fight. Just gets the piece instantly, and that's the peak. You just don't peek Thomas. I feel like I need to write that down as rule number 1. Don't peek Thomas in a box fight. Doesn't matter if he has piece control or not. He's just going to pack the punch.
I think that's a pretty decent rule. Don't peek Thomas. Probably going to be safe more times than not, right?
Sure hope so. Just one ramp really separating these two teams, but they're going to rift out. Try to find some safety elsewhere. It's just, are they going to follow or are they just going to zone? Quickly answer. I think they were probably thinking in their head to try to follow, get as close as you can, but shots coming in from both MK Alphas and the Mammoth Pistol. That's a decision you're going to regret for a little bit until you heal up at the very minimum as Podesai and Snazy. Kind of what we see them do here, as long as the zone is towards the Citadel. It's already elevated high up off the ground naturally, and then if you build on top of it, you're going to get a great line of sight to try to get Surge. But an interesting loadout from Podesai. No shotgun. From one side of the map from the other. From castles to jungles. Savage and Vidil just toying outside of the zone for now. Savage just getting that much more damage for his Storm Surge total, but Vidil just oversteps his boundaries. Lucy's able to get the knock, but it's from the distance. You can see them trying to close in on that distance. You see it in the minimap as well. Mr. Savage is trying to time this right. He's trying to go for the revive. Does he get it off is the question, especially with shots coming in from Steno. He's going to stop that one coming through and gets the cleanup onto Vidil.
Steno and Lush have not been the easiest team to come up against in these games so far, and I don't often associate real brute forcing high-level fighting with these two, but maybe I should, because that's what they've been showcasing today. And you can see with this fight taking place, Hide on Bush and Mustachio are just waiting on the outside for it to conclude before jumping in. And you might see that there. Yeah, I think Steno just spotted one of them now. And so both players will slow down a bit as Mr. Savage continues to try and make his great escape.
At least 3 teams directly in the fight. Make it 4 as they finally enter the fray. A solo and another duo towards the outskirts. Hearing all this action, they want a piece of that pie. Stash not dropping down immediately. Savage is out. Vico is out. Bacon is gone as well. Luckily for Merstash, he got tagged up. The Slurp Juice is popping. So he's immediately able to get up to tip-top shape. This is where with the fight breaking down, it's over just as quick as it started in a lot of these. You're seeing a lot of these players disengage. They don't want to continue to fight, especially while having to rotate to the next zone. For him, he has the exotic slap splashes. Get 30 HP instead of 15. Longer duration with your tactical sprint. You see he's on the hunt right now. It looks like he was going back for the reboot, but Shaco's going to beat him there. So we have a 1v1 with so much on the line other than just the elimination points, but a chance to get your teammate back into the game. And just like that, there's another team rotating from the zone and a chance for them to try to pick up something here, at least some shots when it comes to Surge, but that third party is going to be detrimental to one of these players if they do land a shot here. He's just getting chased around. Shaco's just doing all that he can just to survive this. Even with a third party coming in, that's Thomas and Malabuka of all teams. I don't know if they know it was him, but you notice as soon as they started pushing up, both of those players disengage. Older's going to feel that one in the morning as Thomas continues his domination with the Mammoth Pistol and the distance. thought he was at least going to go for the attempt there.
I just want more Thomas Mammoth highlights. That's all I want. Do you know what I mean? Look, I don't want many things in life. I don't really complain much, but if I can, you know, get some more Thomas Mammoth highlights, I'll shut up for a long time if you want me to.
Nah. Keep it going. Keep it going. Great find on the men miss. They still got some traveling to go before they find that safety net into the zone. They're going to be one of the last teams there as well, and I think they have the experience to know what is waiting for them on the other side. Reboot coming off. And see the information being gathered at the top of Rift Island. Plenty of heals on the side of Marco and Klinberg. There's one team that's positioned right below them, directly on Rift Island. One more right below them on the mountain below Rift Island, who's trying to travel closer and closer to the center zone. And a couple players towards the outskirts sprinkled around, which could be what he's looking for right now. With a Mammoth pistol, this amount of high ground, a great opportunity to just get somebody when they least expect it.
I don't think anybody expects it. The Mammoth pistols. Unbelievable. But look, it wouldn't be a mid-game without having our lovely friend Mini-Miner dropping us with some updates. Mini, what's going on?
Well, Evan, Snazy and Podestai, they've been doing very good so far. They're 4th place on the leaderboard, but I feel like we haven't seen too much from them. Let's break down their off-spawn strategy and how they're maximizing the loot that they can get from the Citadel. We can see here Podestai getting as much metal as possible, spoiling the tea party, breaking every single plate and cutlery on the table, just trying to maximize all of the metal that he can get from this drop spot. Meanwhile, they also have a loot or a vault nearby that they can loot from, so Snazy and Podestai get a little bit of that loot as well, and also they are able to capture a flag at their POI. So these guys are not short on loot at all. That's why we're seeing them keeping up this consistency, and let's see if they can continue it here in Game 5.
And I think a big thing is just they do that all so quickly, and then they're setting up in positions, right, to go out there, get their surge dealt with. And that can sometimes be the key. Too many times I've seen teams in positions where they're just overlooting, spending way too much time, doing it too slowly, not efficient in their pathing, and it really costs you that extra couple of minutes you lose out on. So
one thing I know that wasn't hit on is the capture point and the vault combined gave them more than enough gold to be very picky, very choosy with their augments and how they want to line up all 4 of those. They can set themselves up. It would be maybe a Mammoth destruction. They can specialize in the ARs. They can even reload their shotgun just a bit quicker, but Skvi's going to go and get tagged up. Fast stroke, he's by himself. He realized there's another player there, so this is where he's immediately going to try to disengage, even though he did deal a good amount of damage, as the damage pours right back at him. He's just trying to disengage and escape. He has 3 slurp juices. He could definitely get himself into the zone as well. You see how close it is, especially if it does begin to open. A lot of these white heals that he's finding on the ground from med mists and so on and so forth is going to allow him to stagger himself even more. Depending on how much damage he's taken up to this point, I don't think Storm Sickness will be that much of a worry.
you can see him just trying to wrap his way into the safe zone. Hellfire. Running behind. Oh, yeah. Why am I surprised anymore? Why am I surprised? The Mammoth pistol putting in work. And Hellfire with some crisp, clean locks. Hitting heads. That's tough.
It's definitely one of those things, and you can see him combining that Mammoth pistol with the augments to give him even more damage. And you can see in games 1 to 3, there were more elims with a Mammoth pistol than ARs.
I wonder why.
I don't think it takes a magic 8-ball to see that one. Players on the ground, you one-shot them. Players standing up, you one-shot them. You could double pump with the Sharp Tooth. And the distance and hip fire, it's just one of those weapons is almost a must-have. And you could see Thomas on the receiving end of some shots, trying to fly through with that rift, and you can see how it's a huge double-edged sword for these teams.
Yeah, and I think one of the key things that sometimes gets overlooked, right, is that when you are gliding as a duo, a lot of the time the first player is fine, right? The first player, whoever's leading, is cool because people aren't really expecting them. People aren't reacting in time. It's the second player, the person that's following. You have to be very conscious about how you're going to glide through and how you're going to survive, because at that point, everybody now is aware of you and is watching, and in that case, Thomas gets caught out because of it. Always much harder to be that second player. Have to be even more aware.
Hopefully that's a bit of a freedom on Malibuca's side to play exactly how he wants, as Seti and Cammy slide in, pick up another elimination. Even choosing what loot am I going to bring along with me on this next adventure into the center of zone.
Also
right on top. Got to be careful. Most of the teams are already in zone, but Fastroki, a solo with a duo right next to him, has to be careful. And you can see all the way westward of Shattered Slab, there's a whole fight breaking down. And both of those teams, no matter who wins that fight, need to be careful, because by the time it's over, chances are everybody else is already going to be in zone.
Yeah, another Shattered Slab zone. Somebody's, you know, clearly in the favor of the zone gods right now. But the big thing is as we saw with last game, those changes in elevation as you go through Shattered, if the moving zones do pull there, can be very, very tough to deal with. You have to think ahead. You have to plan ahead. Hide on Bush and Mustache going to be playing the same game as a duo. Weren't doing that last time round, and so hopefully now a change in their fortunes as they look to climb up the standings.
The chance for a change in so many, every player's fortune in this lobby, because we saw there a moment ago, the leaderboard flashed up. Top 3 teams are down and out again in our 5th game on the day, which opens up an opportunity for anybody, any one of these teams, even Snazy and Podesai here, to try to climb up that leaderboard. Try to position themselves at the top. Nice shots off into the distance. They pick up that elimination. Unable to really get all that loot for their efforts, but at least one less player in the lobby they have to worry about. They spot out Corny, his teammate, on the other side. They know he's a solo, and that's the interesting thing. As long as they have that information, they don't have to act on it now. They can wait until zones begin to rotate and spot him out on rotation.
Strokey. It's going to be a tough battle. Yeah, he's above on Surge, but he doesn't have a teammate, and he has some very aggressive players looking at him from all sides, all angles. I'm surprised he's even stayed alive this long. Dodging bullets, sliding through edits, up, down, over, under. How is he surviving? He might even get a live out of this. For Strokey! How have you managed to survive that? He eventually gets taken out, but for Strokey, putting on a show before he went down. What a player.
We're going to see that on social media probably a few times throughout the weekend, but take note of this. I talked about the top 3 teams being down. You include Fastroki, that's 4 of the top 5 teams are down, and then you continue to look down that leaderboard. Out of the top 7, there's only one team alive. It's Snazy and Podesai, and this is the game that can really climb them to the top of the leaderboards and give them momentum going into our 6th and final game. They could be the team to take it all, when I think a lot of people were looking at some other names in this lobby, and that's why I love Fortnite for that reason. When you least expect, a lot of these players that are going under the radar become the top dogs.
This is their chance. This is their moment. The others have allowed them to have this opportunity. No one to blame but themselves. They want to force their way up. Seti and Cammy are always going to be a presence in these kind of games, and the setup looks really nice for them. The zone pull isn't too bad. And you know exactly what they want to try and do. Stick to those higher layers. Look to see if they can disrupt height a bit. If it's there to be taken, they will definitely take it. But more often than not, we see them moving through, claiming those low ground layers and just absolutely bullying enemy solos that are scuffed down there. Vortex, Belusi, they're trying to cause problems for themselves, and that's exactly what they'll do. Podesai and Snazy, and to re-establish their height fortress, getting chopped out for a moment.
Even saved some builds from crashing and falling down to the low ground when it all got chopped. Those are huge, but 255 above the damage threshold. He stays, he going out, going wide, trying to go to the front side. Mustache, he's trying to go in. Chicho goes down. Trulick's true to follow, and that's Hide on Bush and Mustache with a huge late game refresh and elimination. They quickly disengage out of the box, right into another though. Mustache taking so much damage trying to survive. Him and his teammate were momentarily separated before they find themselves reunited in the same box once more.
This could be the game where we show exactly who they are. These guys have been FNCS champions this year. They are no slouches at all. Vortex and Belusi, we saw them much higher up a couple moments ago, but things have quickly taken a turn. And so it's all up to Vortex now as a solo to try and make some sort of masterclass happen.
He does have some decent loot to make it a possibility. Combine that with 5 eliminations so far. They've already got the ball rolling. You see him being very, very careful not to forget any corner to check. Even Tripper trying to break down height. Refscar going into the zone, trying to pick up as many of those refresh mats as possible. See him even splitting, giving them all over to Tripper. He's going to be the IGL, the leader, the guy that's tunneling and tarping them way in towards zone. Senna and Lucy looking towards the backside. They found one onto Ronnie. That gives them 2 more points to their total. Slowly but surely, this team is climbing up that leaderboard.
And this is a different kind of game for Cammy. He has to do it all alone, and he's going to do his best at it. You can see the opportunities are there for him to add points to the tally, and he knows how to take them. He can't finish off anything just yet. He knows he can't be overly passive in this game if he wants to survive. Snazy Podesido up in the sky, and they're holding on good.
Great use of the glider redeployed by Cammy. Just go ahead and get in zone as fast as possible. Let it Slurp Juice do a lot of the work to try to get an HP up. He gets the piece control in the edit, but misses the crucial shot. But the second Slurp Juice is there. No worries for Cammy as he continues to try to go in zone. Side by Lucy. Catches him slipping, takes him out, and gets a nice set of refresh mats. It's not much, but at least it's something to work with for Cammy.
The perfect opportunity for him to stay in this game. Steno's going to be wondering what on earth has just happened. Cammy now, he's going for the other duo partner. He's not going to let them survive. More piece control from him, trying to be attempted, but he'll just rely on the aim, rely on the AR, and it will pay off.
And he gets the med miss. He's keeping himself alive. I talked about Snazy and Podeside's chance being one of the only teams in the top 5. Well, Cammy and Seti are the second team in the top 10 trying to take this opportunity by storm, but they go down. 2v2 situation, though. Snazy and Podeside, they have the high ground. They cannot be shot out by now, so the pressure is there from the Flapjack on the low, though. Nebs, Hellfire, trying to fire back. You see the Mammoth pistol in hand, trying to break through the builds and drop them into the palm of their hands, but this one is going to go down to who is daring enough to try to make the play, and it's Snazzy first. Snazzy goes down. He takes down Nebs. 2v1 situation here as the heal off is going to begin. Podeside trusting in his teammate to do all the work, and he gets him down low. Hellfire gets taken down by Podeside and Snazy.
Snazy and Podeside, they made it close in the end. When Snazy dropped down there, I was thinking, oh my goodness, is this going to pay off? But it did in the end. Hellfire and Nebs did a brilliant job to make it as close as it was, because those guys were big chilling for a large part of those moving zones. And still though, at every given opportunity to try and take somebody out, they took it and took it well. That falling shot, the drop shot there, not something you see often. And when it comes off, it is so clean, and he almost got both of them, to be fair. But it was Hellfire who was able to pick him up before Podeside closed things out. A nice game for the Frenchies there, Jacob, and one that I'm sure will be very, very fruitful for them in their pursuit of first place.
No, it definitely is. And the biggest thing to note is he stopped his own heal up to make sure to take down Hellfire before the Siphon actually came in. He is making sure to stretch his limits. He's using everything he learned in Fortnite up until this point, and I said it, first was down, second is down. 2 teams in the top 10 overall late into the game were the only 2 teams alive, and you best believe that leaderboard is in shambles going into our last and final game. I'm throwing it over to Zeke and our analyst to break it all down.
Thank you guys so much. Only a single game left to go here in EU. And man, it has been a wild one to say the very least. Once again, our teams in first and second place have gone down. This means everyone else can try and make plays, can try and catch up. Remember, after 6 games on the day, wherever a duo places, they're looking to put series points on the series point leaderboard. Snazy and Podeside, that get themselves the victory royale. We've seen them kind of in that top 10 situation several times today, but finally, Vivid, they put all the pieces together and they get themselves the win.
They've been one of the most consistent teams on the day for sure. They haven't placed out of the top 15 yet today, and I just mentioned it last game. I like the way that they are positioning in the end games. It seems like they always have the positional advantage over the rest of the lobby. They've just been waiting for the zone to pull their way in. Finally, in game number 5, it does, and they take full advantage of it by building up, making sure they have the higher ground, and it was just played so perfectly. Even Snazy right there dropping down, playing the mid ground for a split second in order to get that refresh, so that way they could continue to build out. And then the ending, closing movements were just way too clean. And this falling shot right into the water, being aware of that, so smart.
It's just the comms and the coordination between these two, because when Snazy goes for that initial drop shot as well, you have to keep in mind he's doing that with full trust into Podesai to actually have the backup pieces necessary to properly pressure from 2 separate angles. And it's definitely not an easy feat to try and control the lobby as well as these two have done. And not just this endgame instance that happened to work out for Victory Royale for them, but even some of our earlier matches, we've seen them time and time again at least looking to try and challenge for the high ground whenever they're actually at that late game opportunity.
Momentum, they have it. Can they do it once more? Well, we'll find out in just a moment. First, let's take a look at the standings. A single game left to go here in EU. What does this all mean? How does it all unfold? For the first time today, Malibuca and Thomas HD finally get dethroned. They've been in that number 1 spot for 5 games. Well, technically, I guess 4. Now on game 5, though, at the conclusion, Snazy and Podesai say, you know what? We are kings. Look at us. But with duos like Seti and Cammy, and now someone like Steno and Lucy there in 4th place, this could still be anyone's game, Vivid.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm looking at Seti and Cammy because they were placing so high, so consistently throughout the day, and after game number 4, they slipped down to that 9th place. But that solo clutch out of Cammy was so crucial, bumps them back up into the top 3. And just real quick, on the right side over there, that Storm Surge damage, they went into the 7th zone with like 1,200 above and without not even having an elimination yet. Like, we talk about them time and time again, and when it comes to the Storm Surge, they can very easily make it to the end game just every single game because they are just a step ahead in that category.
Yeah, and you can tell that the cogs are always turning here, because even one of the clutch plays that Cammy had for his solo clutch opportunity was chopping out a duo's box and forcing that pair to be isolated so that he was even in a position to find a nice refresh. He gets some siphon going for himself and a couple of elims to boot. And it's not easy when you're in that solo side situation. You see a lot of times, you'll see teams when they're left with that solo player just trying to play full backside of zone, trying not to put themselves into a position where they can become the target focus of the lobby. But Cammy just didn't care. He was ready to get active, and he did a phenomenal job at clutching up some of those points for the leaderboard position.
And like, how many duos in that same position would just crumble, right? They'd be like, I'm left alone, I have 1 elim. Maybe they are eliminated like 15, right? For Cammy to make it all the way to top 5, remember, there's points for eliminations, there's points for placement, so he played it so well, constantly teetering on that line. So well executed from him. And another duo, Nevs and Hellfire, coming in 2nd after that game. This is a duo we've seen in the past do very well, and though they've been relatively quiet on the day, they finally make it in that top 2, trying to make a play happen, trying to fight for the victory royale. But I mean, just look at the number of eliminations. Finally, they're trying to just bring something online for this final game.
Yeah, I feel like they've had some solid mid-games throughout the day. I keep seeing some mammoth pistol highlights out of this duo, right? So the Storm Surge has always been there for this duo. It's just all about finalizing those closing moments and actually make it into the end game. And when they did, popping off with 10 eliminations, I mean, that's going to be a huge game for them leading into the last one.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately it's just going to be about consistency at this point, and some of these teams that didn't necessarily get the strongest start on the day in our first 3 games, well, you can always close out strong, and I think Nebs and Hellfire have definitely put themselves in a position where they could certainly look to challenge for top 5 in the leaderboards.
I like that, but this does make me think about that 20, right? The 11th through 20th places. Just really quickly, let's just touch on this. Let's see which duos are currently sitting in that little margin, right? Take a look. This is our top 10. We'll flip on over to our 20th as well. Because again, we're looking to place as high as we can after the day is done. 14th place, a duo like Janice and Reason, right? Take a look at 17th place, Nebs and Hellfire, up 20 places. Vivid, they could do it again. It could happen.
Could do it again.
But
it's crazy, right? Like, look at this leaderboard. There's only 14-point difference between 20th and 11th. So close.
it is way too close. It is way too close with only this here, the final game in EU. One last ride, one last time. Casters, over to you.
This is it. The last ride. The final go-around for a lot of these teams. And you got to imagine that top side of the leaderboard is stacked. It's worth fighting for teams that didn't have that placement in week number one. For some that have already achieved a top five, and they're looking to kind of solidify their spot in grand finals with this week here.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to say these guys have had a feel for the games today. You've had so many chances to have an understanding going into this last game. You know, there aren't any excuses that you have to make this one count.
Yeah, it's all or nothing in this last and final moments. And we're going to see a lot of teams change up their game plan from very, very early on. We're going to see a lot of aggression right out of the gates into maybe a slow and style game plan into those final moments to take it all. So everybody needs to scavenge around. You're going to see some players caught out of position and players taking advantage. But the last game of the day starts right now.
We've had 5 games that have built up to this moment. A last opportunity for many of these teams. Some of these teams, there's a good chance, Jacob, we won't even see them again this season. With just how grueling and difficult it can be to even make it back to this stage. Of course, the hope is that we will see a lot of them get another chance at it in week number 3. But that all starts with their performance here in Game 6, and it all starts with these off-spawn battles. Malabuka and Thomas up against Mygroot and Heine. Both teams trying to land on any sort of weapons they can find and catch another player out if possible.
That's a good find from Thomas. Even the big bush bomb can be used to try to cloud his position. Immediately it goes out. You see them fighting for the slurp truck, which they're going to get. Heine gets the best end of it all, 200 HP and shield, which vanishes in the blink of an eye. Thomas continues to put out damage. Malabuka is there. They're trading. The bait and switch goes through, and they come out on top yet again. Thomas and Malabuka are ready to take that first place position back.
I like what I'm seeing. I like what I'm seeing. A quick, clean off-spawn battle. And a chance for them to remind us of how they started the day. Of course, if you have tuned in late, those two won the first 2 games back-to-back, which is a big part of why they're where they are in the standings.
Uh-oh. You see this?
Trouble in paradise.
That looks like somebody got taken down out of the sky. Maybe Comeback, Perhawa, maybe tagging him, not letting him even touch the ground. Podesai going for the reboot. They immediately beeline over. They want to take him down twice. 2 different times. That's 4 points on just Snazy alone. And that's putting a ton of pressure on a Podesai. If they can even find him, though.
Yeah, they do have to find him. Snazy, you can see just crawling away. Hidden in that building. I'm sure they'll check it. Ooh, maybe not. Maybe they're just going to go right for the head, right for Podesai. Of course, suspicious of every corner, every angle. Not going to go to the extent to check every single building. Interesting.
Wow.
Wait, Comeback spinning the block. And he will find Snazy.
That's a good find right there. Wait, we didn't check the closed building. It's probably what he told himself. Let me just double back, check it one more time. And this is where they're just trying to take height. They spot out Podesai in the distance. Not a lot of ammo for that Flapjack to deal damage into the distance. But he's quickly going to pop that slap juice. Try to get unlimited stamina so he can close the distance onto Podesai. But it's basically a game of cat and mouse, hide and seek.
If I'm Podesai, I'm never going to stop running.
Got your shoe placed up tight.
Yeah, I think they know that as well. They've done enough damage though, right? They've completely derailed their gate. We've seen these guys comfortably land at the Citadel, loot up very quickly, very efficiently, you know, capture the flag, get the ball, you know, do all this, all that. And now, they got to find a new way to play this game. And that's not what you want to be doing in game number 6. You want to already go with your established plan that's got you so far.
The last bullet out of the Flapjack started off with the Mammoth, and that's why you're seeing that stat about the eliminations with that Mammoth. It's much easier just to spray through your targets with the Slapjack and the MK Alpha, and then kind of finish it off overall with the Mammoth, especially if a player is weak as they continue to loot up Frenzy. They're just pushing everybody that was contesting them early on. They're just pushing them out of Frenzy fields, making sure people know that is their POI to kind of hold down tough. And they started this game off in 3rd place, 180 points. They were 14 points shy of 2nd, so they have a gap to overcome. The Slove and Asa immediately end that fight as soon as we tune in.
Let's get a replay of how exactly Asa was able to accumulate some of these limbs.
Good start for them. It's all about those series points here. Even if you realize like it's a 100-point deficit to try to take first, you want to gather as many as possible. The late Rift to try to get himself out of a tough spot. Volko's going to go down. You can see him going right back to the scene to try to get that loot. Third party coming in, Hellfire. Just taking so much damage, being backed up against the wall. Luckily for him, though, Nebs is right there, and they have the potential Rift as like a get-out-of-jail-free card trick underneath their sleeve.
Lupo and Julian Commons not seen much of them, apart from them being on the receiving end of a lot of these fights where players are just sort of scattered in this area of the map.
It's like he's begging for somebody to spot him out, shoot in that direction. Maybe using it as a way to kind of figure out where his opponents are at. You see back into Podesai. Last we saw him, he was disengaging so far out of the Citadel to try to stay alive, but it is eventuality coming into play that he needed to backtrack. He needs to go back if he wants to get Snazy's reboot card and work together as a duo. They have a 30-point lead to start this game, but with Thomas and Malabuka hot on your heels, that is not a 30-point feeling of comfortability that I would have at all.
Yeah, not at all. Especially with their propensity to often play towards the vault, towards the island, sorry. And just their raw ability, you know, at any given moment, these guys can set an limb record and win a game, right? So, always on the edge of your seat.
Those are the original combat for Howell, the original players that did take down Podesai's teammate. So they had the wherewithal to stay in the vicinity of the reboot card as soon as he went. Try to get it. You see them close in on the distance, but Podesai is too sneaky. He's just a little bit too quick. He was able to disengage, and depending on where the zone pulls, this side of the map might be one of the least congested, and there might be a high probability of that reboot card getting off yet again. He's already done it twice. Third time might be the charm.
This is not ideal at all. We're a couple minutes into the game. He's got barely any materials. No teammate. No surge. Bro's just existing right now.
At least he's still alive. At least he's still alive. At least he's existing on the map. That's one of the biggest things that you got to give him
He's far away from the island, mate.
He could easily be watching in Legends Landing along with the rest of us if that one did go sideways, but knowing when and where to abandon your teammate, it's huge. It keeps you alive. It gets you that chance to go back for the reboot card. But what he does from there on out, because now not only do they know he's there, they know what direction that reboot is, so they wanted to go push and try to take out Snazy for a third time. That is there, but they're laughing and show them. They're just going to continue to move in towards the zone. They got themselves a possibility at legendary loot thanks to that weapons cache.
Yeah, it's not bad at all. But will they get it for free? Of course, they're very aware that Vasquez He's around the corner. He's dashed down in the feed at the hands of the deal. After seeing him picking up Mr. Savage, so let's see if Tayson can clutch up there. That 1v1 against Fadil.
He's just trying to get information. See there, he's just trying to stretch, go one direction, figure if there's anybody positioned high up on Rumble Ruins, goes back. It's all about preparing for the next stage of the game. Similar here. Seti and Cammy, they boxed up on their own loot cache. Seti's there just being that IGL, being the brains of the operation, figuring out where that next rotation is. You can see right now they spotted out Seno and Lucy in the distance. They know they're there. They know Vico and Pink are there on the right. It's about what they do with this information. Seeing both sides of that action. Well, that's an easy way to get some height. Let's go to the restroom.
Almost lined up the headshot there. You never say no to those kind of moments. Thomas, though, seems to be the one on the receiving end of that aggression. In a bit of a different spot, though, and so gonna get some time to heal up. Ooh. Looting up. Malabuka cleans up on Trilex.
This is what Thomas has been doing almost all day long, and you see him going in, using the big pots. Able to save the slap splash leader, and there it goes. We literally, that happened almost exactly, because we saw Thomas get tagged up as he was tagging up somebody else, and you're seeing, that's basically the duality of the Mammoth. If you take too long to line up your own shot, you risk getting tagged up yourself. Excitement at its finest as they reach 200 points, but Thomas and Malabuka have been running wild in this game. We're thrown over to Miniminer to break down every stage of their game.
Yeah, of course. Let's take a little look at the race for first place right now. Thomas HD and Malabuka. Let's take a little look. Of course, we saw them winning on spawn, and let's have a look at their loot. Malabuka has that Breacher shotgun, which is going to be really useful when combined with Thomas HD with that Mammoth pistol. I've seen so many teams use them in conjunction with each other and finding great results. Podesai left as a solo, but does manage to get the reboot onto Snazy, so hopefully for them, they can maintain that top spot. And Seti and Cammy, these guys are also in the race for the top spot as well. Cammy does, of course, have that Soaring Sprint augment, which we saw him using that solo clutch, and some great loot to boot. I'm excited for this team as well.
I'm just excited for this game, the way he's breaking that one down. We're going to have what could be a photo finish at the end between our top three teams and anybody else willing to step up to the plate. 420 into this game, Steno Lushi, 170, only 10 points shy of that third place. You got Bask and Older, 164. So a lot of this leaderboard is stacked right close to another. So if we have a repeat of last game with our top teams going down, it definitely opens up the possibility of somebody else taking first as a fight for Rift Island breaks out. Pink takes the brunt of that damage using the Rift to get there. They're laughing and show them. They take both the actual capture point and the building on top of Rift Island.
Oh là, laisse-moi, arrêtez de spammer. Arrêtez de spammer, je vous dis.
Great eye there, they're laughing. Spot Pink trying to make that rotation late. Pounces on him to deal a good amount of damage. He needs to be able to solidify some time here for Show Them to try to heal. Did more than enough. Slurp Juice is now active. You see they're laughing, popping the big pot as well. Pink peeking through the cone. Information in this fight is huge, especially with third parties coming in to try to cause even more chaos. That's a 15-point potential for this mid-map objective and all that loot that so many players are climb up the leaderboard as quick as possible in these final moments.
Yeah, that swing is huge. That's why they all desperately want it so bad, especially in this last game where having the opportunity for points is so vital.
It does get interesting. They did most of that capture. To be pushed off and back down now is not what you want to have happen, but Vico and Pink slowly but surely stepping forward, taking these pieces underneath their control. They're laughing, doing a good job of backing them down, but a trade in shots. They're laughing and Show Them are going to have the advantage for now as they continue to try to push down Vico and Pink back. Since it is about halfway captured at the very minimum, they need to continue to play hot potato.
Yeah, and these are the kind of moments where I want to see Vico show his worth and his value to the team, right? Create that opening, create that separation, hit that shot, get that piece control that really changes the tide of the fight. Right, that's where we see Vico excel, and that's where he needs to develop his game. See him now trying to find a different angle. He needs to be careful because what's a player just in front of him? I don't even realize. I don't know if he noticed it. Other players looking to jump in and get involved in this fighting. Pink still the one though, trying to be the main aggressor here. If he's not careful, he might get caught out. Vico needs to make a play, and soon, you'd think.
Soon is the right word. You see Zone pulling away from Rift Island. Some time is now going to be limited for these guys. Look, so many teams on the outskirts of Rift Island, below Rift Island. If they hear too much damage and they look to feed of players going down, that could be an opportunity to the third party, but Pink is doing a good job of not backing down. Doesn't matter what angles they're being taken from Show Them, and they're laughing, but they're just up and ready for the challenge. You can see them separate Vico on the low ground, Pink on the high ground. The multiple angles have just proven to be a little bit too tricky. They're laughing and Show Them not finding their confidence just yet, but I might have spoke too soon as he tries to bull rush in. Pink sees that one coming, lands a great shot to trade off. There's a couple of missed opportunities from their laughing that is keeping him on the back foot.
Pink doing an excellent job of displaying that even though he is the IGL, he does have ability in box fights to apply pressure and hold people off, giving room for Vico to try and make a play here, handling both players. We might just see it now. Vico trying to get in, taps on the wall, and they're instantly aware of it. But the zone coming in really does sort of change the dynamic of this fight when it comes to the timing.
All those other teams and say, hey, you're distracted. Let me use this launch pad. Let me just get out of here. You guys can continue fighting for it, and I'll go my own merry way. But a lot of this mid-layer control still going over to their laughing and Show Them. Just Pink and Vico not wanting to give up the potential 15 points and all that loot. 155 on the side of their laughing and Show Them. So this could be a difference maker for their laughing and Show Them. That 15-point jump, that'll put him contention for that top 3. But Podesai goes down. Podesai's gone. Stacy's by himself. 11 HP. He's trying to stay alive, but that's Trexer on the other side. Hydro's already down, so it is a 1v1 situation. And they're one of the only teams in zone as well, with very few heals on to Snazzy. The timing is right for Trexer, but it does look like he has options. He can either play aggressive, try to back down Snazzy, or bait out that revive as the shots continue to get fired off and traded between the two. But Snazzy, he has no shields to regain here in this situation, so he has to be very, very careful how he approaches and continues to aggress on a Trexer.
This is so tough. That first place position slowly slipping out of his fingers, and he's desperately trying to keep the dream alive.
Now or never. 30-point lead with the amount of destructible players in this lobby. I'm not sure it'll hold, but Snazzy goes down. I might not be sure, but they have their fingers crossed that 224 points hold on. They're going to be praying that everybody below them slowly but surely gets out of this lobby, because now it's Malabuka and Thomas for the taking.
Yeah, and I'll be real, it does not look like something they're going to be able to hold on to. 24 points in the rest of this game for Malabuka and Thomas. That's easy. That's barbecue chicken for these guys. You'd think, at least. 3 limbs already so far on the day. Many more to be had. Vico and Pink on the Rift Island. Vico doing so well to get in and hits a big shot. Pink goes down. And Vico was able to trade. So, again, I said I want to see him taking charge in those fights, and he did well to make sure he closed and a chance to continue to play this game out. Things are looking on the up for these two.
That's a huge win. You get the points. Get like a free rotation towards the zone. See him kind of landing on the tail end, but Lucy and Steno go down as well. Top teams beginning to fall very, very early on. Those cascading placement points have not begun to set in just yet. Shimoki and Wheat feeling the pressure that they once put on somebody else. Only 40, but as I say, it's 3 below the damage threshold, so even though they find the elimination, their job of getting damage is not done just yet, even though they become the focus of the lobby and spend just enough resources to get in the zone. But now they have to worry about Surge and a teammate, a player trying to break into the box. Shimoki's going to go down. Wheat's by himself, but they did just enough. They landed a good shot to get above the Storm Surge threshold, but the pressure, the focus of the lobby is too much. Shimoki and Wheat both go down.
You never want to be the lobby's enemy. Always a tough spot to be in when you have that much pressure coming in from so many different angles and a limited amount of builds.
This is where they take over this game. One of the two teams, you see the whole leaderboard getting wiped out. This is looking like an FNCS classic. Malibuca and Thomas toe-to-toe with Seti and Cammy in our final game. And to separate these two teams, to start the day off, it was only 14 points.
And look, game number 2, they were the final 2 teams in that game. They've literally gone head-to-head for a victory earlier today. And now it could be head-to-head for the victory overall at the end of the 6 games. Let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Both teams still have a long way to go. And there's still 46 other teams that's...
They're one of the tough teams right now. 295 right in front of them. You see the deal and Savage. They're not in zone just yet, as it is going to pull far away. Refsguard and Triprin, they have that slow side. But if they didn't get that zone pull, it's going to be hard for them to go up and over the mountain. Yep, they not only have to go up and over the mountain, they have to go across a little river to make it there. But Seti and Cammy, one of the front runners, 184 points. Depending on the eliminations between them and Malibuca and Thomas, like I said, it was only a 14-point differential between the two. So going down at any stage of this endgame is basically going to give up that position over to the next team. Astroki and Kylie, they were another team at the top of the leaderboards.
Stroke only has 2 shots remaining in that, and he'll make it. Very, very worth his route. 187 to the dome. And that was crucial for them in terms of their Storm Surge position for the rest of this game.
They just immediately went up and boxed right next to him. Janice and Reason. They're just trying to reunite with each other. 99 above the damage threshold. You can see a lot of teams and takes down Julian. Him and Savage still doing a good job. Mixon takes so much can heal. Thomas and Malibuca find another one on the Lazarek. They send him back to the lobby, and you see they go in for the loot. But if you look at the builds, if you look at the resource, that wasn't a ton that Thomas was able to gather.
Yeah, not at all. But he's going to have to make it work, Jacob. There's not much more you can do now. Trippin' and the refs up on height. It's in the name for refs. And even though we haven't seen it much today, there's no better time to show off your height prowess than here in this last game. First move in zone will pull towards the south over at Rumble. King Kylie, they don't really have many materials to sort of tarp and cover their way through. They need to find a good time.
Seti and Cammy breaking through the walls. Talked about one shot. Seti has in that Mammoth, looking to make it count, but he actually goes down, jumps into the wrong box. That was actually Thomas. Thomas takes down Seti. Cammy's now on the run, trying to stay alive. It's all up to him. So much pressure on one player's shoulders, as now the loot and the change of the game has gone over. They have tied Snazy and Podesai up into this point at 224.
We said we wanted the head-to-head, and these guys are giving it to us. Their job to stop them from stealing the show. Cammy goes down in the feed, and so that's going to be the end of the run for those two players. Badil falling as well, all things going on. So many players struggling to make it through these zones. A big shot from Kylie, but one that will not be reciprocated. Malibuca, Thomas, now it's their time to really run away with the show. They've already overtaken first place, and now they're just adding to that tally.
They're just trying to take over, prove their dominance here in this lobby. It's been a while since these guys have tasted first in a FNCS weekly finals lobby, and this is their chance to reclaim that throne, but they have so many players to go through. Trip and Revscar, they have the high ground. Malabuka, thinking outside of the box, ends up on Rift Island. Their chance to take over. Grohl's trying but he gets spotted and taken down by Malabuka. Into the top 8 we go as Clownski. He's still trying to hide at the high ground outside of zone.
These guys, all they do is adapt and improvise. But now it's going to be a question of how do we get down from here? It was all good us coming up, but how do we move down? Thomas is falling, and Malabuka might just follow him. That might be his fate. He doesn't really have anything to stay alive for much longer. We're just going to fall and eventually will fall to his demise. That's the end, but they are still an unbelievable team that has blessed us with their prowess today. Hellfire and Nebso very much trying to get vengeance. They came so close to a first place earlier, and now want to make up for it and claim the victory royale now.
That's a couple hundred series points up for grabs. They started the game in 17th place. Perchawa takes a huge shot. Backed up. Kombik is there on the low ground as well. You have to be careful because he climbs up. Nebs, Hellfire, they have full control even though they're on the low ground. Continuously putting pressure high up, trying to drop them into the palm of their hands. At a moment's notice, a well-placed mammoth shot like that could just break all the builds. And this is exactly what Hellfire and the Nebs are looking for. They have so much materials. They can continue to spread out and build down low. But he's taken in the game in his own hands. Kombik drops down. Huge shot onto Hellfire, but it's not going to be enough. Nebs with the other angle, and they make it a 2v1 situation as things slow down. Just a sliver of HP on Perhawa. He gets dropped down into the box and sent back to the lobby in our final game.
Second place earlier in the day. And been there first. And they do it in style as well. They had me a bit worried there at the end, Jacob. That edit from Hellfire wasn't the best. He was peaking a bit too ambitiously and almost got punished for it, but Nebs came to the rescue. Look at these guys, so the domination from them. I said at the start of the day, they played their best Fortnite with each other many, many seasons ago, and now they're looking to try get back to that form, and this is how they did it. Side by side, hip to hip, as people always say, and making use of them shotguns. A big, big win for Nebs and Hellfire.
Yeah, a big win that you're saying that series points leaderboards after 2 weeks. They started that game 6 in 17th place. You best believe they jumped up tenfold, but there's only one way to find out, Levin. Let's throw it over to Zeke and our analysts to let us know who won week 2.
Big thank you, of course, to 11-2K and Jacob PR for an incredible set of 6 games, and Nebs and Hellfire. This is why right before we came into this game, Vivid, I looked at you and I said, up 20 places, could it happen again? Well, Nebs and Hellfire, they have the answer for us. The answer is yes, a victory royale with 8 eliminations, or 9 rather, excuse me. Man, what a way to end week 2 in the EU.
What a run. I mean, game number 5 to get second place with 10 eliminations. And like Zeke mentioned, up 20 places because of that performance. You go into the last game, you're like, you want to know something? Why don't we just go ahead and one-up ourselves to make this comeback a reality? A first place to close it out. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's why you can never really feel all that comfortable, even if you're sitting in top 5 placements on leaderboards. As long as there is still 1 more match, 2 more matches to go, you have these experienced duos. Well, I mean, it might be Nebs and Hellfire reuniting for this season, but at the same time, as individuals, they've both got so much experience underneath their belt, and I think they really shined with how they ended up closing out today. That momentum that they built up in Game 5 certainly carrying over here into Game 6.
Well, we only have one question left, Taco, and that is who overtook that number 1 spot? How high up did Nebs and Hellfire climb? Up 20 places before. How many now? Well, the standings will give us all of the answers. As one final reminder, don't forget, Wherever the duos place at the end of the day, we'll look to put series points on the series point leaderboard. Malabuga and Thomas, they only lost that first place for a single game, but then say, our bad, everybody. This was just a joke. We wanted to just give you guys a moment away from us, but we are back. They will hold down that number 1 spot. Now, in 5th place, Nebs and Hellfire up now in 2 games, Vivid. They have suddenly found themselves in the top 5.
Going into game number 5, you are 37th place, and after game 6, you are 5th. What a performance out of Nebs and Hellfire. But speaking about performances, I mean, there's one that just takes the cake for the entire day. They came out strong. They won back-to-back games, number 1 and 2. I mean, it's Thomas and Malabuka. What a run from this duo. Also clutching up in the last one there with that very smart play, right, to rift up to Rift Island. Unfortunately, they quickly realized that, coming down off of this is going to be quite troublesome, but they still clutch up points because of it.
And even from the very beginning, where we noticed that Thomas and Malabuka were going to be initially contested at their draw spot, it's just an area that they're all too familiar with, and pressure is just seemingly where they tend to exceed expectations. Their standard for how they actually choose to maneuver through these low and mid-ground layers, you would think that they are a single person with how well they're able to essentially connect their mindsets, but at the same time, Thomas Malabuka, I had to give him a shout out as well for this play, that Hail Mary call at the very end too, to jump up onto the Rift Island. For a moment, it looked as though it was going to be one of the most promising plays of the day, but it's that innovation factor that you can never really count that duo out as far as a top 3 finish is concerned.
Just imagine, right, if it had been like on one of those corners of Rift Island where they actually have the launch pads, it would have gone up, come back down. It would have been wild, but of course, still phenomenal play. And I can't wait to see more clips of just Thomas HD with the Mammoth pistol in hand, just doming people left and right. Just wild. Another duo really quickly, Cammy and Seti. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Cammy as well, putting on the solo clutch like 2 games ago to end that game in 5th place with several eliminations. These guys are on it, right? And now we just have to go 1 more week, and then we'll see them in grand finals.
Oh, yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, they got 4th place. And it was really well done throughout the day. I think that they are a little bit ahead of all the rest of these other duos, especially going into finals, grand finals, that is. I mean, their Storm Surge was just so consistent. It looks like they can make every single endgame if they play for their strategy, and they showcased that perfectly today.
Hey, every little bit counts. They were 6th in week 1, 4th here today, and you never really know, because it'd be cool if they actually did manage to walk away as that first place position for week 3 finals, because that would make them the first duo to have a weekly finals win for every single major so far this chapter.
That would be pretty wild. I feel like, especially with their current scoreline, we will see them in grand finals. But you just want to be sure once we get there, we'll see how things go. Overall, I am very pleased with EU today. There have been a couple of weird games where things are just chaotic. There's only solos left. People going way too ham. But at the end of the day, after these 6 games, I'm happy. I feel like I've had everything that I could have wanted, Vivid.
Yeah, I mean, I saw some great performances. I mean, we've talked about Seti and Cammy, Thomas and Malabuka look like they are in form. I want to shout out Podesai and Snatesy because, me looking at their positions in every single end game, which they consistently made it to, by the way, it just looks like they kind of were always like on this like dead side where they could just save so many materials throughout a lot of those end game rotations. So I'll be looking forward to their week 3 performance as well.
Yeah, considering that there were 31 new duos essentially competing here in week 2 finals in comparison to week 1, that is a lot of makeup time that those 31 duos have essentially been able to accomplish. And now it's going to really come down to the wire as far as week 3 finals is concerned. These teams do not want to have to try and chance it. They want to be in grands.
Absolutely. And of course, when is that? When is the last chance major? All of that? Well, we have a broadcast schedule for you all at home in case you're tuning in for the first time. You're like, hey, this was actually pretty cool. I want to check out more Fortnite. Well, take a look here. This is week number 2, and we're already wrapped up and done here. However, next week we'll be back on August 5th for week number 3. Grand finals will be 2 days, August 12th and 13th. You want to come back for that. And then finally, key date here, August 20th, last chance major. That will be the final opportunity for a set number of duos to try and qualify for global championships. It is going to be wild. Now, of course, as I mentioned, Global Championships, maybe you're like, hey, what's that about? We have a special video for you guys. Check this out. This is the Global Championship.
The best players in the world all battling it out.
Insane matches already today.
These are the moments that make these players championship material.
One chance to make it happen, and they take it by force.
It is going to be absolutely insane. Tickets are indeed still available. And you know, from that halfway interview after game number 3, Mama Benji Fish is going to be there. We will be there. We hope you will join us for the Global Championships. Now, of course, before we say goodbye, I want to get closing thoughts from our amazing analysts.
Well, number one, top of the list for me is going to be that the Mammoth pistol is very, very strong. And second on the list is that Thomas with the Mammoth pistol is also very, very strong.
Look, we saw some real highlight moments from a lot of individuals today as far as that Mammoth pistol is concerned, but looking towards North America now to see whether or not they can keep it popping with the Mammoth pistol highlights. I mean, anybody catching Twitter saw Reet with a nice little trick shot, so curious to see what NA does with this new weapon.
That's right. North America will take the stage tomorrow, so if you didn't want to wait till next week to watch more action in EU, come back tomorrow. North America, 6 games there as well. As always, don't forget, Legends Landing is a great place to go. And of course, thank you to all of our incredible team, our analysts, our casters, and we hope to see y'all tomorrow. And don't forget, as always, we love you, keep yourself safe, and we'll see you on the Battle Bus.